Hey folks, welcome to training. It is the 11th day of February, and today we have one class, and it is scheduled for 3 hours. And that's actually as long as Miss Sheila Riggs teaches it. This is a very important class. This is probably one of the two or three, we were just talking about that before we started recording, one of the two or three most important classes that you need to attend. And this is buyer agreement, buyer consult, and offer or contract purchase. This is the one where you could actually get yourself in trouble as a realtor. And this is also your money maker. And Sheila's probably going to get into that about it being able to explain this contract upside down, sideways, upside down, face down, whatever.
Blindfolded.
Blindfolded if you need to. So extremely important. Little note, I've got some things happening this morning that I'm working on, and I'm not going to be able to dedicate the time to fully engage, which is absolutely required for anybody that's attending training or watching it on video. So I'm actually going to back off, and I will not be on for this training today, but Sheila's going to be running it. And I think you guys are going to have an absolute blast with her. Sheila, good luck. I'm getting ready to make you host.
Okay.
And that way you can drive everything going on. Folks, you have a
Gotcha.
great day. And our next training will be next Tuesday. Or no, not next Tuesday. It'll actually be the
No?
23rd. Next week is family reunion. If you've not signed up, sign up. Let Kate, let Kristen know today.
Yeah.
And have a great time. And I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye there.
Okay. So somebody's got to turn on their screen because I can't look at my cell phone morning, guys.
Oh, please, I got a stiff neck. I have to talk to you with my head turned. It's so gross.
Aw, that stinks. Let me know if you need me to bring you anything because
Thank
I'll
you.
be out in the cold today.
Vodka will do it.
In Collinsville. I'll be in Collinsville. So yeah, so let me know. So just to reiterate what Barry said why he hopped off, we want you guys to know how strongly we feel about all of these trainings, that, you know, if you're doing something else, but you're on a training, you're really doing yourself a disservice. I mean, we all know that there's probably all of us say I'm really great at multitasking, but you're probably doing everything a little bit halfway because you really can't pay 100%. I try to listen to podcasts while I do other things, and I wind up rewinding 1,000 times because I really didn't hear it. And it's the same thing with these classes. If you are distracted, like Barry would have been today, why be on it? Just watch the recording when you can pay 100% to the class, just like you would if you were sitting in the classroom. That's how we want you to participate here. So just so you know how we feel it's so important, Barry felt it was that important to actually hop off. He'll watch my recording because he wants to give me feedback. So he'll watch it later when he can pay attention. It's the one thing about being the host I'm still not used to. I have to let people in to the class. So yes, so like I said, pay 100% attention. If you're paying half attention, it's the same thing as being in the classroom and taking one of those trifold boards for the science fair and putting it up in front of your face right in front of a teacher. That's pretty much the same thing. So don't, just pay 100% attention, please. So welcome this morning to our class on buyer presentation and contracts. We're going to go over a ton of information. And like Barry said, we won't be back until Tuesday, the 23rd, because of family reunion. And then I will be doing the listing paperwork side of it. Barry's going to do the presentation side of it. So we'll split that class. So welcome. If you can be on camera, please be on camera so I'm not just looking at myself. That would be great. Okay, so let me share screen. There are some things before we get started in the actual paperwork that I want to share with you that I think are very important to start with. The first thing, oh, and can I get a volunteer that if somebody types in the chat to let me know, because I can't look at that at the same time. Anybody?
I'll do it, Sheila.
Thanks, Pam.
You're welcome, dear.
Okay, so this is the first thing that I want you to think about. Go to, this is mykw.kw.com. So when you go into here, if you haven't been in, you're going to have to log in. If you've logged in, your computer has probably saved your login. So when you go here, this is a ton of Keller Williams information. I know everybody always says it's very overwhelming. Take it one tiny bite at a time. And this is a tiny bite that I want you to know, like the back of your hand, for an excellent resource. So up here at the top, you can go to education. And when you go into education, you're going to go to KW Connect. And then you're going to go to training. Whoop. So go to training. Training. Okay.
Are you looking for Sheila? Oh, there you go.
Well, I was looking for my little search button.
It's there right next to upload.
Oh, so I can't see it because I see it because all of the us recording this and everything was in my way.
There you go.
So in here, what I want you to type is buyer questions. Oh. We're in Connect. Training.
ABC question?
Yeah.
No.
It's not going where I want it to go. Look, see family reunion register. Look, see, we're reminding you everywhere, right?
Also, the button right next to that training, the calendar, that's where all your classes are.
It is, but that's not what I was looking for. There are, so these are current classes. So thank you, Pam, because these are current live classes. But what I wanted you to go to, write this down because we'll move on, but go to, when you can go into training, I don't know what's going on. Usually you can go into training and you can type a search, and I type in buyer questions, and then it's going to pull down, you know, like when you go online shopping and you can search different ways, like most popular, highest price to lowest price. So you're going to type in most asked, and then in those documents there are like a ton of most asked buyer questions. I want you to look most asked because those are probably going to be the ones that you get. And so those are the ones I want you to focus on first, not the obscure questions that 1 in 200 people are going to ask you. So it's just a great resource. I wanted you guys to see that and know that that's there for you. If you are brand new at this and you have not met with a buyer yet, look at that today, tomorrow. That's your homework, or that's one of your pieces of homework.
And I put the chain in the chat for you, Sheila.
Thank you very much, Pam. You rock.
I want everybody to have the best advantage they can.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure, do you guys know that you can actually go into the chat and you can export the chat so that you can have it for later? So when it goes away, it's not gone forever, because I think a lot of people think that, but you can export it before we get out of here. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about meeting with your buyer, what to say, what questions to ask, and then we'll go over the contract and documents. So I have notes down here so I don't forget anything because I will go off on tangents, guys. Um, so so one of the pieces of information that you can, we're going to go over two right now. Two of the pieces of information that you can access from DocuSign, which even though when you're in command, you can utilize DocuSign or Dotloop, DocuSign is free for you through Keller Williams. I have used both. The agency I was with before Keller Williams used Dotloop. I use Dotloop currently with Pam. However, I think DocuSign is easier in that it populates more information for you automatically. Although they both do, but just in different ways. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about that, but we do have another class for that. So here's your buyer agency checklist. This is the one of the things, again, you'll find it in Dotloop, you'll find it in DocuSign. You're also going to find it on the IAR website. IR, yes, yep.
Yeah.
So this is your buyer agency checklist. You may not always use this through your entire career once you kind of develop your own system. And fun fact, this is actually in command. If you are utilizing command fully and you are putting all of your people in your opportunities, this is actually one of those things that you can set all of your dates. You can set checklists, reminders, all of those things you can put right into DocuSign and Dotloop, so that you don't need to have this in front of you. However, I do really think that when you're new, it's just, I'm a paper girl. To be honest, I don't love tech. I utilize tech because it makes my job and my life easier, but I love paper. And so I always think it's good to have a paper checklist sitting beside you. Sometimes it's just a better reminder than popping into the computer. So here's your buyer's agency checklist. Just going to go over everything that you need to do. Not your dates. You'll still have to put your dates in there just like you would if you're doing it digitally. So the other piece, this little screen being in my way is kind of challenging. Okay. So this is your buyer's information checklist. This has got a lot of really great questions, and there are agents all over the place that have created their own documents. Some that are very detailed. Honey, can you mute?
No, this Heidi.
Heidi. We got Heidi.
For yourself.
Oh, okay, well, try again.
Sheila.
Sheila,
Yeah.
you can
You can
mute
mute her.
other people since you're the host.
You can
No, I know there's just a lot going on my screen, so.
Understood. She probably just didn't know.
Okay.
I do that.
All right. So this is your buyer's information checklist. So who's going to shout out how you're going to find these buyers? Anybody? How are you finding your buyers? Open houses?
Yeah, open houses.
At the
Good.
gas station, at the supermarket.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Everywhere. So you guys in the PC program, you know, we're doing the Amazing Race Challenge with all lead generating activities. So we gave you 50 items that you're working towards points. This is our last week. So that whole checklist of all the ways you can earn points, those plus whatever your imagination can come up with in ways to get out there and meet people. However, some of those are going to be referrals. Some are going to be Facebook leads that you don't know. So you want to make sure that you are vetting these people, that you are being safe and qualifying them so you're not wasting your time. However, never say it to them like that. You always want to make sure that they know that you don't want to waste their time, because everything is always important to make sure that they know that it's what's in it for them, not because of what's best for you. So here's our buyer's information checklist. So when you're on the phone, potentially right now, because a lot of these meetings are phone, Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, if you're still doing Skype. um, and you want to go through and make sure that you fully understand and that you're listening 100% to what your buyers are looking for and that you have all of their correct information. So you're going to go through this checklist, their name. When you're in DocuSign, I like to print these off and just have a ton of these handy next to me at my desk at my home office. I keep them in my go bag in my car. So I have these handy all the time. But if you're on the computer and you have DocuSign pulled up, you can actually fill this out and then save it, because all these little boxes mean they're fillable. So names. Something really important to make sure is that you ask them on somebody's name's Katie. What is your given name? Make sure you have the spelling correct. So Catherine, and I just met a Katie the other day, and Catherine with a C or a K, with an I or a Y, spell it for me, please, because you want to make sure you have spelled it properly. The last thing you want to have to do is make an amendment to a contract because you have their name misspelled or you're using their nickname, not their given name. Do they use a middle initial on formal documents? That's important too. You would have to write an amendment for that as well. Do they have a suffix? Are they a junior? Are they the second? Make sure you know all of those things. So you ask those questions. Their address, where they currently live, preferred telephone number or numbers if there's both of them, email and emails. The area that they're interested in. So maybe you have a client who says, yeah, we aren't worried about school districts. We just need to live within 20 minutes of where Katie works. So you need to know that. If it is a school district specifically, because when you're doing a search for a client, you can just put in the school district, not the town, because there's so many towns have lines that cross over. So you could be in Highland, but it's still triad schools. And so you want to make sure that you're putting them in the right school district if that is very important to them. Don't send them a house that's in the wrong school district and they get their hopes up and then you have to crush them. So approximate possession date. So no, if they have a house to sell, are you going to need to make sure that they find a new house before they sell this house or sell that house before they buy a new house? So that's something they're going to discuss with their lender as well. If they're renting, when is their lease up? If you don't find a house for them to move into in time, are they going to be able to extend their rent on a month-to-month basis? They may not have thought of those things. A lot of people don't. And so that's a little bit of homework you're going to give them to talk to their landlord and find out. If you find a house today, but their rent isn't up for 4 months, are they okay getting their mortgage started while they're still going to have to pay rent? Or could they get out of their lease early without too big of a penalty? Or are they willing to take the penalty? So all questions that you want to go over with them. Specifications. So here is one thing that can really get you tripped up because everybody wants everything, right? These days we watch HGTV and it looks like everybody has all the bells and whistles and it only cost them $100,000. So this is important to not only know what they want, but what is a dream item? What's an item? Like, we really don't have to have it. We would love it if we could find it, but it's not a have to have. Or what do they absolutely have to have? They have 3 Great Pyrenees, so they need an 8-foot fence. Or Katie, what if we find you a house that doesn't have an 8-foot fence, but it checks all the other have-to-haves? Do you have money set aside that you could put up a fence? So know all of those details, because that will make you the rock star agent when you send them the right house, or you send them a house that's close and you say, I know it doesn't have X, but it's got ABC. Because then they know you are listening and they know they're important to you. So make sure that you really fill this out with detail. I have all kinds of notes all over it. I flip it over and write on the back.
And one of the things too, Sheila, is for the newest of the new here. I don't know if anybody's used it or not, but when you're talking to people, it sounds like you're just filling out a form. But if you make it kind of sing-songy, like, hey, Chauncey, by the way, what kind of school district did you want to be in? Oh, fantastic. I went to school that, you know what I mean? Like, make conversation, and you'll watch that form be filled in without asking, like, Chauncey, what percentage are you looking at? You're like a robot. But as soon as you start sing-songy talking to them, they'll talk back to you in such a lovely way, and you will connect with someone. That's really the purpose of this form, is to connect and build a relationship and also get their information, right? So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know we have some very, very new and some somewhat experienced and so on. So I just wanted to throw that idea out there.
Yes. So you never want to say, okay, number 7, price range.
I do, but never mind. I'm just saying.
However, now that being said, when it is safe for us to freely roam about the country, or you have a client who doesn't mind getting together if everybody's masked and being safe and you're comfortable with that, now that the businesses are back open again, there'll be coffee shops you can go meet at, or I have a local diner that I love to take people to, all the waitresses know, and I might be there for a little bit longer than us having a piece of pie and a coffee or a hot cocoa. And then I just tip them really well for taking one of their tables. But that's where I like to take all my people, is the diner for pie.
I'll remember that.
Right? If you have a favorite place and you get to know all the employees that work there, it's awesome.
Yeah, and there's a couple of places I used to hang out as active as there's this cute little donut shop in Edwardsville. They all sit there for hours right next to a laundromat over by Green Earth. I don't know if all y'all know it, but I mean to tell you, that thing was packed all day long. You would talk to every walk of life there was there, because they were just packed. And so I would just sit outside on the bench, and just my little laptop and just playing around.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's awesome. I love it. So
stuff.
find your space. Get to know those people. Lead genning, right?
Yeah.
So number 7 is price range. And this is one thing that you want to make sure that you know how they got to, what is your price range? And so I just had a buyer consult last night, and they said, well, we really don't know our price range. We haven't talked to anybody. We need a lender. Look, they already answered one of my questions. That's the good thing about being conversational, like Pam said. You don't have to ask all of these questions if you are really listening and letting them talk. So they said, we don't know what our price range is. We don't have a lender. We called you first because we have a mutual friend. And so we just need you to tell us what to do next. And I said, okay, well, just so we get an idea, what do you think you're comfortable with your monthly payment being? So that's going to be your mortgage, your interest, your PMI, your taxes. That's so not your utilities. What are you comfortable with your monthly payment? So again, not saying, okay, number 8, what do you consider a comfortable monthly payment? It just flows right into that, right? And they said, well, our rent at our apartment is $750. However, we have money saved, so we can probably go a little bit higher. Okay, well, how much higher? You want to make sure that you fully understand their answer, not just, well, their rent's $750 and they can go higher, and then you fill in the blanks. That is the last thing you want to do, is make assumptions. So know then what that dollar amount is for you. There are apps that you can download on your phone that can help you just in your mind for yourself determine potentially what kind of house they can afford with all of those. Their lender will go over all of that. You do not have to be an expert at this. This is just giving you a jumping off point. So they'll discuss all of the money details with their lender. However, you do need to know, so they say, I've got money, we have money set aside. Great. So were you planning on putting on a down payment? And they might say, we're not sure. Do we have to have a down payment? Well, that's going to be up to your lender. So I'm going to send you some references and you can give them a call. However, I think, and you'll remember this from your class when you got licensed, that they say give 2 or 3 references, right? And while you want to do that, and you'll have trusted lenders, why? Because you lead gen, right? So while you want to give them some options, there is nothing wrong. It's perfectly fine with you saying, I'm going to send you some references. However, I think since you're a first-time home buyer, just starting out, Cara, who we just talked to on Monday night, remember on our call, is a fantastic lender for first-time home buyers, and she's right in your area. I would recommend you make sure you have a conversation with her, even if you call all 3 people I'm going to send you, but make sure you're talking to Cara because I think she'll be the best fit for you. And that's perfectly fine. So they say, yeah, we definitely know we're putting down 5,000. Great. Where's that money coming from? Because this could be very important in your process. If they have it in the bank, their lender may just need to see that statement, knowing that it's there, maybe something from the bank saying, yes, this is in their account. If it's a gift, they say, oh yeah, so Bob's mom is giving us the money. That's very important to know. Because those gifting sources will need to be documented. And again, a good lender should be asking them all of these questions too. However, I'll say that's really good to know because your lender is probably going to ask you for that information. But if you're okay with it, when you decide on a lender, let me know who you're going with. I will get in touch with them and I'll just let them know the details we talked about so everybody's on the same page. Is that okay? And just make sure everybody's same page. Matched expectations is a big thing.
Hey, Sheila.
Yeah.
If you didn't already say it, and I apologize, I had to step away for a moment.
That's okay.
Also, too, if you have someone gifting funds to your buyers, if they are in the decision-making process, we need to know that as well. So like, hey, Ariel, I see you're getting a letter from your mom. Great, that's fantastic. Is she helping you make the decision as to which home you're buying?
Very good point. Does mom need to go on showings with us? Because if mom's going to give you $10,000, she might want to give her okay. And if that's the case, we don't want to go look at a house, but then you can't make a decision and we got to make a second appointment. In the market today, there's probably not time for a second appointment.
And there's also, oops, I'm sorry, Sheila.
No, go ahead.
It's also always okay to ask that question regardless of they're giving you gift funds or not. I mean, I would typically ask that, hey, so Sheila, is there anyone else helping you make a decision on this property, on any property? Very simple question, but it will save you so much time.
Right, before you even set up an appointment, because I'll tell you, you will get that client who says, yeah, my husband works a lot and he told me just to go look at houses and pick the one I want and then let him know if I find the right one and we'll go back and see it. That these days, there is not time for that.
Let me translate that for you. I'm not entirely serious. My husband doesn't care because he's not entirely serious. And I just want to go look at houses most of the time. That's probably a 90% of the time.
Yeah. So then you want to say, well, I don't want to waste your time, because we
Chantel's
could
trying to say
literally go
something.
look at a house and somebody else will get an accepted offer before we can get him back.
Chantel says, right?
Right.
I know it, right?
Absolutely.
They will drag you all over hell and creation too. Mm-mm.
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's her out there just looking and he's like, yeah, honey, you go have fun doing that. I'm going to stay home. Call me when you're serious.
Right.
No,
And so we just
she will
always want to
drag you
be
everywhere.
right. No, so we always want to be in service, right, Sheila? Like we want to
Yep.
be in service to people with a good service heart. However, we also want to be able to, I guess, take the lead without looking like we're taking the lead. I'm not that good at it, hence why I'm not active anymore. Well, let's all be real. So, but yeah, that's what that is. This whole form is for that.
Right. Which is why I like to say, I don't want to waste your time.
Yep.
So this is your job. I get that the showing part can be a lot of fun. And sometimes I would love to go look at 36 houses in a day. Not really. Because that's your time. Time is money, and time that you're spending spinning wheels is time you wasted that you could have been working with a client that actually made you a paycheck, right? So telling your client, I don't want to waste your time. We need to do things in the right order to where you have the best chance to get your perfect house. It's all about them. All right. So down here, number 10, do you already have a preference for a lender or mortgage broker? So maybe you don't have to ask this question. You know, if you're being conversational, and like I said, back at number 7, they already told you they have nobody. But this might be the opportunity where you say, you know what, thinking you said you don't have a lender, but do you have a bank that you love that you would like to continue working with? Do you know the people at your bank? You know, just those kinds of questions. Would you like to stay where you've been banking? There's a lot of people, because so many people just go to the drive-through. P.S. Barry and I've said this before, never, never, never go to the drive-through. Once the banks are open, go inside every time. Know all your banking people, because again, those are, they can wind up being your raving fans. They know your face. You come in with a smile every time you do your business at the windows. My bank, when I walk in, the girls come from around the desk to hug me. That's what you want. I mean, if you like hugs, I love hugs. So they are my raving fans. So if they don't, you know, like I said, most people don't, they bank somewhere, they don't know anybody there, they don't really care. So again, the reason for you to have referral partners that you can send their way if they don't have someone. So this is where you want to ask that if you need to ask that question. Other than the maximum price that you might be willing to pay for the property, is there any other information? Because again, you never want to say, when you have your buyer clients and you know their max, when you're talking to another agent, you never want to say what your client's max. Well, I do know they'll go up to X dollar amount. Never. That is definitely confidential. So other than the max price you might be willing to pay for a property, is there any other information which you deem confidential and do not want disclosed? Good examples of that might be maybe they don't want somebody knowing that they're moving from out of state. Maybe Pam, throw me some other examples. Maybe they don't want someone knowing that they.
Usually when I ask them this question, Sheila, it's typically when I'm writing an offer. Although I do try to prerequisite it. Whatever you ask them on this form, I just say, all right, whatever you tell me on this is confidential. I may ask you if I can share certain information once we are negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, right now, this will not be shared. So please know that you have my utmost confidence, unless you, because that is the law, right? That's our licensure law. So, and I tell people that that's the law. So tell me
Yes.
whatever you want to tell me, and they'll tell you all kinds of crazy stuff. And if they don't, just ask them things like, well, so how did you come to, move here? Or when were you born here? Just make sure you watch your, fair housing stuff. Be careful of that. And I never want to insult anyone that's not where we're going. So I just always try to just have conversation with them. And as they have conversation with you, you will find out many, 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 many things. It'll just
Absolutely.
happen naturally.
Right, right. And again, it won't seem like you're going over a checklist, but when you're in person, it is a checklist.
Yeah,
And
sort of.
I do think that you shouldn't be afraid of that, because I also, as much as we talk about this being conversational, we don't want you to be afraid to use a checklist in front of people, because this will save your butt when you're new and you don't know these things. But that being said, and Barry and I have talked about this many, many times, these are things that when you're in school and you need to learn something for a test, you have to go over it and over it and over it, correct? Everybody smile and nod. So this is the same thing. Your test is when you're actually writing this with a client. So your practice at home before the test is to learn this information. So if you print this out and you go over it again and again and again, and you practice with a friend, a significant other, your mom, your cousin, practice with everybody that will practice with you, practice in the mirror, and commit this into your heart. And that way, when you're sitting across the table from them, you may have this in front of you, pen in hand, but you may not really need to look at it. That is the key.
Sure.
Because again, I'll say it 1,000 times, do not have your clients be your guinea pigs. That is the wrong thing to do, not professional. You're in this training to learn so that you don't make mistakes in real life, hopefully. Don't get me wrong, it happens. That's why we have amendments that have to be written. But ideally, if you learn before the test, which is being in front of actual clients, your chances of screwing up or getting a failing grade will be much less, right? Okay, so here
do we have any amazing race people in here today?
we do.
Okay, so I got a 10-pointer at the end of class.
Oh, sweet. Woohoo. Okay, paying attention, guys. All right, so page 2 does not need to be signed. All of this, so all this right here does not need to be signed. Don't worry about that. Again, office use, this is stuff, maybe I check some things just to make sure I get them in command, that I shoot them. You guys know me, I'm all about mailing handwritten cards. So I make sure on there, this is where I'm like, okay, check done. I mailed them a card. I put them in command. I sent them a Facebook message. I made sure we're friends on Facebook, those kinds of things. This is just for you. And these properties, if you like to keep a paper list of properties you showed them, that is entirely up to you. But again, not necessary. Okay, questions? Nothing? Okay. So one of these things that I will mention, that when you're going over this and what you've determined through this information that this is probably maybe a half-hour phone conversation, and you've determined that one, she's having fun, he's not serious, or grandma's giving some money and grandma needs to go, but she is in Florida for the winter and she has to decide, maybe she's even going to be on the deed because she's actually purchasing the house. She's the one who can get the loan. I've had that situation to help granddaughter buy her first house. But grandma's not here right now. So granddaughter, really, let's kind of keep our eyes open online. And when grandma gets back, we'll get serious and we'll start looking at houses. So those are the honest conversations that you want to have. Don't waste your time / their time going and looking at houses if they're not truly ready just yet. Maybe this is a long-term nurture, which is why opportunities in command is very important to make sure you have all of your people in there. I just had lunch with a friend yesterday, and she said, when my girls graduate in 3 years, we're going to be ready to sell. Great. Do you know what? She went right in my opportunities in command. That's a long-term nurture. And you want to make sure 3 years is a really long time. Heck, even if it's a year, that's a long time. You might forget. And then one day you're on Facebook and you see they bought a house with somebody else because you forgot about them. So huge for putting all of these conversations in command, in opportunities, assigning them that section, you know, that they're in there just in the cultivate phase. They're a warm lead, they're a hot lead. And then always going into opportunities and looking at all those people in all those different segments and seeing, do I need to check in with these people? Do I just need to send them a little note? Do I need to hop onto their Facebook page and see what's going on in their life right now?
And Smart Plans is the most brilliant. I mean, I have never seen, honest to God, that's the most brilliant thing ever.
It is brilliant. I will tell you, I firmly believe that having command at my disposal, coming from a different real estate office before Keller Williams, I think that having opportunities in command and all the social media posts that we can create, all of the print paperwork that we can create, all of those tools is exactly why my business was double last year than it was the year before at the other office.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, okay. So, again, you can find both of these pieces of paperwork at your disposal. So we covered that. See, I don't want to miss anything. That's why I have notes. So here's our buyer's rep agreement. So at the bottom of that information checklist, it asks, did you do a buyer's rep agreement? So now you're going to work with these people, or maybe you did an open house. We talked about open houses a little bit ago. And you did an open house and you're not their representative. So make sure that when you do an open house, you have these notice of no agency relationships handy, because you need to sign that. Anything you talk with clients here or people who walk in the door at your open house, that is not confidential information, and they need to know that right away. That anything they tell it, because it's amazing what people will tell you at an open house. Make sure they know that that's not confidential right off the bat, unless they came to the open house because we're definitely already planning on working with you. Then again, the people you are working with, that you are their representative, you need to make sure that you have this buyer representation agreement. So there are two, with dual agency and without. Now, I never print without, just because who knows if I might have something that I've already got listed that's perfect for this brand new buyer. Now, if we've discussed dual agency, because maybe we've had a few conversations before they were actual clients, and I know for sure that they know what it is and they definitely don't want dual agency, I'll send them that to sign. For sure. That's why you want to use it. But for the most part, you're going to use with just in case it might be okay. You can always, even if they sign with, when it comes down to it, they can change their mind and say, yeah, I know we signed with, but we just really want you to just represent us. And you go, well, I'm so sorry. I'm already under contract with the seller. Would you mind if I refer you to a trusted partner? And then you can refer them to somebody that you trust in the office and get a 25% referral fee for that. And now everybody has their own representation should they change their mind. Make sense? Okay, so buyer representation. Again, you need to have this in the beginning. Can anybody tell me why? We've talked about this before. Does anybody remember why you want to definitely have this right at the beginning before you're showing them houses.
Because if they want to write an offer.
Yes. Making sure, here's one scenario that sometimes happens. Maybe you're in the process of showing them houses and they see an open house this Sunday. I have an open house. It's Valentine's Day. Somebody comes to my open house and they came without their agent. They didn't even tell their agent they were going because they didn't want to bother him or her because it's Valentine's Day. So maybe they do that. They go to somebody, one of your clients comes to my open house and you did not get a buyer's agreement signed with them. And now they talk to me about all kinds of personal information because some people just talk. You can have them sign a paper and they still just talk, telling them that you're not their representative. It's not confidential. People just like to share. It's just natural. I think especially right now when we haven't been able to share enough. So then sometimes people overshare, right? So that's the last thing you want for your client. So you want to go over this with them in detail ahead to say, I am your representative. If you want to see a house, let me know. Don't talk to another agent. We're going to go through all of that. So that's a good reason so that you are for sure their client and you're going to get paid for your time. So if you're in DocuSign, again, these things will auto-populate for you if you have them filled in, let me show you. So we're in command. So when you're in your opportunity, this section right here in details, this general information, the more you can fill out in this, the better, because it will auto-populate into your documents. Same thing with .loop. There's a section in .loop where you can fill out all of the information that's going to have to go in there. It's less that you're going to have to type. So Keller Williams Marquis is your brokerage, is referred to as the sponsoring broker, is designated, is affiliated with the sponsoring broker to act as an agent of the buyer for the purpose of identifying and negotiating to acquire real estate for blank, blank. Now, when you just print these, it's just going to have one line. You're going to put both people's names. If there's 2 people, if there's 4 people that are buying this property, you want everybody's names on there that is that are going to be on the deed. Here, your type of representation. So you have 2 options. The first is they say exactly the same thing, guys, except one caveat at the bottom of the first one is that the buyer reserves the right to purchase on their own without the assistance of you. Why would you ever check that box?
You'd be surprised how many of them I see.
What's that?
I said, you'd be surprised how many of those I see.
I know, it's crazy because nobody learned this before the test. If you don't learn these things before the test, you could shoot yourself in the foot and miss out on a $2,000 paycheck, a $5,000 paycheck because you checked the wrong box. If you check this box, you did the right thing, right? You did your buyer's agreement, but you checked this first box and they come to some other agent's open house. And then that agent is like, wow, I already took 3 offers this morning. You should write one right now. Maybe that agent didn't even do her due diligence and say, are you working with an agent already? So when you're doing that checklist, it's not on the checklist, but I always say, have you talked to any other agents?
Absolutely.
Is there anybody else you might be working with? Have you been to any open houses? They're not on the checklist, but very, very, very important questions to ask. And so maybe that agent didn't ask them that, didn't say, are you working with an agent? She just says, hey, you're at my open house. We've already got offers. You should put one in right now. And she has contracts ready and she writes an offer with them. And then they go, oh, well, we did have an agent, but you checked this first one right here.
Right.
So bad. You just lost out. So checking the second one, you have the exclusive right to acquire property in the following area. This could be anything that you want it to be. If it can be more specific, make it more specific. It might not be. I had buyers once that could literally live anywhere in the state of Illinois. They didn't care at all. They just wanted the right house. So you could put Illinois. You
Sheila?
can put, yeah.
Excuse me a minute. I wanted to tell these guys a quick real time. I'm gonna take 5 seconds. Ready? Had a buyer, showed her houses for like 6 or 8 months, very specific buyer, had a buyer agency signed. It even expired, rewrote the buyer agency. She backed out of one contract. I let her be because she was so upset. Next thing I know, my home inspector that I used said, hey, did you sell so-and-so that house I just did? Guys, Sunset Hills. Anybody know what Sunset Hills is in Edwardsville? Yeah. A like $400,000 house. And I had her under contract. And when she went into the open house, the agent did not ask her that, what Sheila said to ask. And guess who got paid? That would be me, because I had this contract and I had it signed. And I went to her and I said, hey, you know, we have a contract that yada, yada, yada. Had the conversation. She was very gracious and kind, and I really appreciated it. And then she went after the other agent for not, because the other agent did tell her, oh no, we'll take care of Pam. Don't worry about it. Because in the talking, she said, oh, I've been working with Pam. Well, guys, seriously, I think it was $8,300.
Wow.
So feel that for a minute on your buyer agencies. That's all I'm telling you the story for. I'm not telling you to brag, but I'm telling you, I didn't believe in them because I came from a state that we never used them. However, when I started using them, this was probably my second experience with them. And I don't live without them. I carry them in my car. I'm telling you. So I wanted to give you like a real life example of how important this really, really is.
Thanks. Yeah, actually, the last time we did this class, I forget if it was Rick or Barry, but one of them actually had to get a lawyer. I think he said like $325 to sue for their commission, and got it. Because if you have this built out.
We have 2 routes. You can go after the office, or you can go after the agent, or the buyer. As I said, she was very kind. In fact, she still refers people to me. She was very eloquent and elegant and kind. So thankfully mine worked out easily, as opposed to, but yeah, you can fight the arbitration. You can go to arbitration. There's all kinds of ways to do it.
Yeah.
So, just want you guys to know how important this really is.
You guys know what CYA is, right? That's what this is.
By the way, I'm giving out points for questions. Just saying.
I have a question. This is Charlene.
Hey, Charlene.
I have a lady that I have came across this a couple times with this form where they don't want to sign it. It's like, well, I don't like I had one girl tell me, I can only deal with you. I can't deal with another person. And I tried to explain to her, like, okay, well, how fair is it for me to show you houses? You go get another agent, and then they get paid the commission, and then that's like waste of time for me, whatever. I lost that client because she didn't want to sign that buyer rep agreement. And then another client that I still talk to her, but she hasn't signed it. I sent it to her. She hasn't signed it, but she said kind of the same thing. She was like, well, you know, why do I have to just work with you I always do it. Someone told me do it for 6 months. I don't know if I'm doing it too long.
I do it for a year.
I do a year.
Okay. Well, I do it for 6 months, and I have gotten like backlash on these things.
So I would say a couple of things. One, I would challenge you to maybe rethink your verbiage. Yeah. Maybe it's asking them why they think they might want to work with another agent, because it may be a really simple answer that they think, well, you know, if I'm driving past a house and somebody's sign is in the yard, I want to be able to call that person. And then you can explain to her why you will do all of those things for her, and she doesn't need to call the agent who's representing the seller, not her fully. Right. And that if she's in dual agency, remind her that then now that agent represents both of them and can't fully do the fiduciary job of an agent for both people when they're dual agent. So this way you represent her fully and you have her best interest in mind. And does she trust you to do what's best for her?
Yeah. You always want to.
Well, I just met her. Well, I mean, I just met her. So,
Mhm.
well, I had just met her. So I don't know that. I mean, of course, she didn't know me to trust me. But, you know, I showed her a couple of houses before I even offered, you know, gave her the buyer's rep agreement. But I don't know. It was kind of weird. So I've gotten that a couple of times. So I just was like, well, maybe I'm not presenting it correctly, or, you know.
So that's what I would say. Here's my advice. And Pam, definitely let me know what you think too. So I would say one, they should be trusting you if you're showing them houses. That is a very important thing, is to establish that trust. That's why in the very beginning, you want to make sure that you're setting up a meeting with them. So it's not just a 20-minute phone conversation. Now you're out the door showing a house immediately. That's not enough to establish trust, which should be why if you don't trust your client to walk through the house with them, or they don't trust you to exclusively work with you, you haven't earned that trust because you didn't have that pre-showing meeting with them. Those are very important, totally different class. But having that pre-showing meeting and getting to know each other. And again, like I said, pie and coffee. I love it. It's a fantastic way to sit down with even a potential client, not just a client, because I take clients that are write contracts too, but a potential client, and you have time to chat, show them that you are trustworthy and that you have their ultimate best interest in mind. And then you say, so now if you trust me and you would like to work with me exclusively, this is what we need to sign.
Yeah, and to expand on that too, hey, Charlon, you know, one of the things that happens with technology is we get away from that. You said that you sent it over to her. I'm certain that you explained it to her, so I know that for sure. But what I would suggest, my best suggestions are these, in addition to Sheila's, is, you know, anytime anyone asks you a question like that, I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person, I'm like, what did they ask me that for? You know, like, what are you talking about? You know, but excuse me, I have changed over the years to look at it from a perspective of they have a fear of some sort. Doesn't matter what it is. So I have to then go backtrack a little bit and alleviate that fear. And so that's called an objection handling technique. So how you handle that is what Sheila said, ask a lot of questions. Hey, so how makes you feel that way? Yeah, she already covered those. So what I find common with agents, with the buyer agency specifically, is we send it over to them and we may go over it with them. But the high points that we cover are these that Sheila's discussing right now, as opposed to, this is what I'm going to do for you, which is section 3. This is what I'm dedicated to doing for you. And again, that goes back to, you know, calling the listing agent. They are representing the seller. And at the time that I'm doing this, to be honest, I bring that right up, right in front of them before they have the chance to ask me. A lot of people, I'll say, you know, a lot of people want to call the sign. And, you know, I understand that. But here's the reality. If there's a sign in the yard, we all have the same information via the MLS. And I'm your agent. I'm looking out for your best interest. And I can get that information for you lickety split. So please don't hesitate to text or call. And let's go over this so you can see what I'm dedicated to doing for you. This is my job. You know, things like that to reassure them, again, build trust, but also the way to look at these things is, and I used to do this too, is I used to be like, oh, I got to get my contract. I got to go, because I was busy. And I had 2 jobs. So I have since learned that if I can build a relationship first of some sort, whether it's pie and coffee or whether it's just a half hour on the phone, whatever, you know. And people go, oh, I didn't mean to take up your time. I always say, I have all the time in the world for you. My phone will be ringing. Sheila, look at Sheila laughing because she knows I talked to her and she says that I don't mean to. Nope, I got all the time in the world for you. 20 people could be calling me. So you want to make them feel, it's customer service. That's the word I'm looking for. So I think if they are objecting to it, and I agree, Chantel put a couple of comments in the chat, and I wholeheartedly agree. Chantel, you are my people, I'm telling you. Chantel says it's also a filter of those you want to work with and those you don't. And no buyer agency and pre-approval, no shopping. Absolutely 100%. And, you know, and this is the green light for me to start working for you, which, you know, seals the deal. That's all excellent, excellent language. And you want to get them excited about you and your relationship with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm. Did it cover your question? Did we?
Yeah, I think the first one, the one that I lost, I think that was more of an insecurity issue, but because I was dealing with her husband at first.
Gotcha. And it's very specific too, you know, we can't, I'd love to give you a blanket answer, and I'm sure Sheila would too, but it's really never that, you know, because human nature, right? Yeah. Human nature.
But after the second one, I was like, okay, well, is my verbiage not correct? Or, you know, like, how can I come off differently with presenting these contracts? So
yeah, sure. And you know, Charlene too, we have, as Sheila said, we have that separate class buyer interview. And what I tell people too is get your buyer interview and your seller interview. And they are interviews because you have the choice to work with these people or not. Number one. Number two, get it down pat. So the reason why I say it that way is because Sheila might ask me as her TC, she might go, hey Pam, did you do this? I do the same things and say the same things every single time. So when she asked me, I know that I absolutely said that. And that will help you in the long run, because the same people, different people will have relatively the same question. And once you get that down, it'll be like butter. You know what I mean? Like butter. So yes. If you watch those buyer interviews, they're fantastic. So yes, do that. But 1 point for Miss Charlene.
Woohoo! Okay, and that goes back to script practicing. So it is once you know this like the back of your hand, which is what you should be doing right now. Don't practice on people. Don't practice on clients. Practice on people in your house, your friends, your mirror. But yes,
my sister.
Yeah. Okay, so in this exclusive right to acquire, again, so the following area, it could be the area could be a school district, it could be multiple school districts, it could be a county, it could just say Illinois. Try to be specific if possible. It will, I had to think about that for a second. It will auto-populate if you have an address in command. It will auto-populate that address. You can just go in and change it because it'll just put like one house. When I was new with KW, I didn't realize that. And so then I was having them sign every time that we were going to look at a house because it would auto-populate it with the house. And then I was like, oh, I can change that. I can make it
and
say
you can also
Madison
do that
County.
Too. Right, I know. I have an interview. You can also do that too. Like
you can.
Yeah. Which I didn't know that for the longest time.
Yeah, but don't make them sign one every time you go look at a house. No. Just change it.
That's the one I heard somebody.
So the next line is the sponsoring broker designates and buyer accepts your name as the legal agent for the buyer for the purposes of finding a home for them. Okay, so section 2, this is another one. This is an almost always. The other one isn't always, right? Mm-hmm. This one's an almost always. This is the terms. Mm-hmm. So you're going to check the first box, and this is just the contract shall be effective until whatever time, and then it shall terminate. So like Pam said, she puts a year, I put a year. I know agents that do 6 months. Don't limit yourself because you should have established the trust with the client to where they don't only want to work with you for 7 days, you know. So it shouldn't, whatever that date is, shouldn't be scary, because it's showing them I am dedicated to working for a solid year if we have to, on finding you the right home for you. That's you giving them reassurance that you are committing. This is your job. You are going to work for them. I will tell you, I just closed in December clients that I had been working with, showing houses for 2.5 years. I was committed. They better send me 1 million referrals. We didn't look at a lot of houses because we got to know each other so well we could have Thanksgiving together. But they said that, not me. That's how committed you should be to this relationship, because you trust each other and you want to work together, to the point where even after that year ended, we extended it. We wrote another one because they loved me. They knew I was only taking them to houses that were going to be the right houses for them. So we didn't look at very many in that 2.5 years, but I was committed to continually searching for the right one for them until it was right, because they had very specific circumstances. So this contract is irrevocable. Ish. It is and it isn't, and can be terminated. So here, and can be terminated prior to the termination date by written agreement. So again, you can have a written agreement and they can get out of it. So you write this for a year, you choose 6 months, whatever is comfortable for you. And then you find out maybe you wouldn't really rather work with this person. Maybe you want to fire your client. Maybe they don't think you're really giving them their full attention, you know, that they deserve, that you're just sending them all kinds of random houses. When we first moved to Illinois and we were looking at houses, our agent only showed us houses that he was selling, and we fired him because he would not show me houses by other agents. He wanted both sides of the deal. So if within X number of days after the termination of this contract, whether it runs out and it doesn't get renewed, or it gets terminated by a written agreement. This is also something you can fill in. I personally fill in 90 days, but you can choose whatever you want, really, 30, 60, 90, 120, whatever you want to put in there. If they decide to, whatever that time frame is, if 30 days after you had this contract terminated, you know, you were representing them for 6 months, 30 days after that, they decide to buy a property you showed them, they're still going to have to pay your commission. So that's why I picked 90 days. That's pretty long. Probably that house is sold by then. This next one, you really only use for commercial. So again, most of us are never going to use that. Okay, so section 3, 4, and 5 are the duties that everybody agrees to. So again, when you, like Pam said, in the digital age, we may be getting too far away from sitting. It's so easy to just send something to somebody and have them sign it. And they don't read it. Nobody reads all those things anymore. How many things do we agree to online that we never read? You know?
Right. And they only see the part where, hey, you got to sign up with me for 180 days or whatever it is, or a year or whatever. And they should really more be looking at these 3, 4, and 5.
Yes, because this is part of what builds that trust. This is what says, these are the things that I agree to do for you. You are my job. And so I am committed to doing these things. Same as the sponsoring brokerage. So Keller Williams agrees to these things. They're supporting me, they're supporting you, for you to be able to do the best job for your clients. So you want them to know that this is how much Keller Williams cares, that they're agreeing to support you to doing the best job for them. That's why we offer these classes for you. Section 5 and you want to verbalize this with them too. These are the things that they have to agree to. They have to agree to go through the checklist, to do the things that are needed to do to help you help them get the right house, to work exclusively with just you, because how can you do the best job if they're going to other people? To give you financial information that might be necessary. They're going to do that with their financial person, but to give you anything that might help you find them the right house, to be available at reasonable notice. That's something important to actually verbalize with them. I think that sometimes we go into this job thinking that, great, realtors work nights and weekends. I'm never going to be at a family barbecue ever again, right? That's what a lot of us think. I'm going to miss all my kids' birthdays. That's what we think, right? I'm not going to be available because I got to go when somebody tells me to go, right? Not necessarily true. I mostly work days. I sometimes work nights and weekends when it's necessary. Right now in this market, if a house goes active at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday and it is super cute and it is priced right, and I'm telling you right now, these days, list price is the right price. It is very rare these days that something is overpriced. Most houses are going over list price. So, so if it's cute and it's priced reasonably, it's going to have multiple offers that day potentially. So when they sign that, you want to make sure that they know this is a crazy market right now. So if something goes active that is the seemingly perfect house for them at Tuesday at 9 a.m., they might need to take a long lunch break to go look at that house. So you should be talking to them about that, not waiting until 6 p.m. that night and you just started getting dinner ready for the family, or it just came out of the oven and now you're going to starve. That's not really the best time for them to be looking at it necessarily. They need to go right away. So just those honest conversations to be having with them, and to pay per the specific terms. We're going to get to that in 1 second. So representing another buyer, section 6 is telling them, I'm a real estate agent with multiple people, not just you. And so potentially that perfect house could come up and I may have other buyers that want to go see it. Now, if those other buyers and this buyer want to make offers, there is a form that you have to let them know that you're representing multiple people to put an offer on the same house. But you can show whoever you want that house. They don't get the exclusive rights to you showing them that house. Section 7 is all about dual agency. So we talked about that. This is another thing you really want to verbalize. I think that it is very overlooked by a lot of agents that do not explain to clients what dual agency means. Because if this was explained fully, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have as much dual agency going on as happens. Because personally, I wish we wouldn't have dual agency because I think it's wrong, because you aren't doing your job 100% if you're a dual agent, because now you can't give advice, because then that's showing preferential treatment to one party over the other. So now all you are is a paper pusher. And I think that that's wrong personally.
Bear in mind that that's all you're ever doing as an agent is giving advice, or you're not supposed to be giving advice either way.
Right. Well, okay. I don't mean advice. I guess that's wrong verbiage, but you know what I mean? Like being able to work on their benefit 100%, right?
Right. I agree.
So yeah. So I think if this was verbalized to clients, more clients would say, I don't really want that.
Yeah. And having been in many, many dual agency situations, I fully agree with you, Sheila. Fully.
Good. Yeah. Thanks.
That doesn't matter. That in 55 cents will get you a cup of coffee, but you know.
Right.
It's uncomfortable.
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. So if you are showing a buyer and they happen to be an agent, is this where that clause comes in, or is this like a separate document?
I don't think you're showing a buyer, but the buyer is an agent?
Yes. So see, for instance, like if I had, when I was looking for my house back in July, if I was already licensed, how would that work out when working with an agent? Do
Why
I
would you
just,
want to work with an agent
Uh,
if you were licensed?
right.
That's my first question.
oh, okay. I thought that it was like a conflict of interest or something like that.
If you,
No, I showed me my house and wrote the contract. Yep.
and in that case, Ariel, you have to be a no agency for the buyer. You would be a no agency. So let's say it was your own house, or you were buying and there. Let's say you went to a house and you were buying for sale by owner, pretend, okay, and you were an agent. You are a no agency relationship with the seller. You're representing only yourself. Same with the listing. Does that make more
Okay.
sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so you
time
don't
for
need another agent.
Ariel. Sorry.
Because we plan on selling the second house that we're in right now eventually, and I just didn't know if I were to sell this home, if it would be an issue, working with another agent. Like obviously I'm not paying myself commission, but being the seller in this predicament, I would end up, like, how would that work out? Would I
We'll
pay
talk
closing
about that.
costs?
So we'll talk about that when we talk about the listings on the 23rd. We'll go over how that works with listing your house.
Okay.
But there's actually a section that when we do this contract, we're writing this offer today for the buyer side. We'll actually get to that.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep. All right. Anybody else? Okay, so compensation, and this auto-populated from something I had already done. So this is just saying that your minimum compensation paid by the seller or the seller's broker, if it's not at least 2.5%, or again, whatever your least amount is, might be 2.0. There are a few houses, 2.5 is usually the lowest you see. However, if it's foreclosure property or just property that's a lower price, I mean, maybe it's a piece of land. And so maybe it's a dollar amount that they're offering. And again, if you're doing foreclosures, maybe you're used to making at least a certain dollar amount, not a percentage, because that's usually how they go. If it's not at least whatever that percentage is you choose to put in, or dollar amount, you can actually cross out this little, I hate that they put the percentage in there because it can be a dollar amount. Then the buyer agrees to pay the sponsoring broker, because remember, they're not really paying you, they're paying the brokerage who pays you. The difference between 2.5% plus, I have $3.95 in there because I have Pam as my transaction manager. Several of us in the office do. And that's Pam's fee. So Pam's fee, I write it in with my buyers that I write it in with my buyers that they are paying that. So while the seller is paying, never say you work for free, because people say that all the time. When buyers go, well, what do I pay you? Oh, I work for free for you. That's not true. The seller is paying it. However, the flip side of that is the buyer is the one that's actually taking out the mortgage for that. So just depends on how you look at it. Technically, on paper, the seller pays you, but you're not working for free because you're getting paid. But I write this in where my buyers will pay the additional over the 2.5%. So I'm still going to get my full commission. My buyer is paying Pam to make sure that all my paperwork is done properly and timely, and Pam emails everybody when they're supposed to be emailed before I even know it. She rocks. If you have not set up an appointment to chat with Pam just to hear what she has to offer, set that up. It's a point for the amazing race.
I'm giving you a point too for that, Sheila. I'm just saying. Thank you. I appreciate that, Sheila.
Sure.
I just put my email, and thank you, Chantel. I put my email in the chat for y'all. So
It's awesome. It takes a huge weight off of me. A little plug for Pam. And now I have more time to get more business to make more money because Pam is doing the office-y side of it.
Yes. That's what I like to do.
And she rocks at it.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So any questions about commission?
So I am on the JJK Home Network team, and we have our own transaction manager, kind of, Amanda.
Amanda.
So do we still kind of answer to Pam? Do we answer to you, or is it
Oh,
like
no, only if you want to hire Pam.
No, you would work with Amanda. She's great.
okay?
She's so
Yeah, because she's part of your team. So it's only for the people that are going to hire outside. But when you're on a team and you already have a transaction coordinator, that's the person you always work with.
Correct.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The form that I'm looking at that I got out of DocuSign, I don't know if there's something on your form that's different from mine because my numbering is now different than yours.
Is it in Missouri or Illinois?
Illinois.
Is it? Okay.
And do you have pulled up with or without dual agent? Because I have with dual agent, so it changes.
Okay, I got without.
Yep.
Yeah, so it just
Okay.
changes where everything is because you're missing that section.
And there's also,
No problem.
just to add a little more confusion for you, honey, there's also an older form that is a 3-page form, and there's a newer form that is a 4-page form. So just the old one will still do, but keep your eye out for the 4-pager.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think I got the 3-page.
Yeah, sometimes you have to go back into .loop or DocuSign and print new forms because they do change occasionally. Although this one's been around since, it says right here on the screen, May of 2019. Yeah, so always make sure you have the most updated.
Correct.
Hey, Sheila.
Yeah.
This is Charlene. How do you print blank forms out? I was trying to do that and I could only go into like my clients in DocuSign and print out that one. So if I just want to print out blank forms, how do I print blank forms?
So remember in the beginning when we told you to create an opportunity that's you?
Okay.
So so you can just leave all of those blank so you can print those.
Gotcha. Okay.
That makes it easy. All right, so previous representation. This is just going over that they may have had previous representation and that somebody, maybe we go look at a house, they worked with an agent that's now listed and now they're working with you. They're signing this, they're working with you, but you're going to show them a house that an agent they worked with 3 months ago is listing. So that agent already knows confidential information about them. Just reassuring them, or vice versa, if it's you that happens to, that if you don't work with me anymore and at some point you're working with another agent, know that I will always keep all of your information confidential because that confidentiality goes forever and it goes to the grave with me. So this is reassuring them of that. Failure to close. If the seller in the agreement made on behalf of the buyer fails to close an agreement with no fault of the buyer has no obligation to pay the commission provided. If the transaction fails through the part of the buyer, so in the beginning, you tell them, so Mr. and Ms. Buyer, as we're going through this process, your financials cannot change. Do not go open credit cards. Don't close credit cards. Don't buy a car. Don't sign up for free financing to buy a house full of furniture before we close. You can do whatever you want to the day after we close, but from the time we're going under contract to the time we close, do not change anything financially because it could cause us to not be able to close. It probably would cause us to not be able to close. And then they go buy a car the day before you close. And now their lender's like, yep, debt to income ratio is off. we can't lend them on this. And it falls apart at that last minute, crushed, right? They are signing this, that they will still pay you because you earned that paycheck. Disclaimer acknowledges that the sponsoring broker and buyer's designated agent are retained solely as real estate professionals. You are not an attorney, you're not a tax advisor, you're not a surveyor, a structural engineer, a home inspector, environmental consultant, architect, contractors, or any other professional other than a realtor. You are only a realtor. You know that phrase? You know that phrase that says that I know just enough to be dangerous? Me. My husband used to be a plumber. I know just enough about plumbing to say something really wrong. Because I was not the plumber, even if you were a plumber in a past life. That was your past life. Your current life is realtor only. Even if you bought a house that was a total gut job and you know all the things you had to do to your house, zipped lips.
Even if you're married to an architect, even if you're married to I was married to a pipe fitter. I'm just
none
saying.
of it.
None of it.
That is knowing just enough to be dangerous, which could get you into huge trouble.
I know that's right. You don't get it by osmosis, just saying.
No. Here's my favorite phrase, guys. When somebody says, so what do you think about that bulging wall in the basement? Say, you know what? That is beyond my area of expertise. I would recommend that when we do inspections, you probably should get a structural engineer, and I will send you a phone number of one that I know.
Right.
Okay? Nothing. Beyond my area of expertise. Favorite phrase.
I love that. That's beautiful.
My expertise, realtor. That's it. Little box. Stay in it. All right. Cost of third-party services. So any of those things, surveys, soil tests, title reports, any of those things, they are sometimes, there are some of those services that they will not require payment up front, that they will agree to get paid at closing. And then this is that section where your buyer is agreeing that they are going to pay those things at closing. And if the deal falls apart, they still have to pay them. Okay, so in indemnification of sponsoring broker, they are going to hold the sponsoring broker and buyer's designated agent harmless on account of lost damages, costs and expenses, attorney's fees. Any of these are not things that we are responsible for if there is any misconduct on their part and the deal falls apart. We are not responsible for those fees. Assignment by buyers. So no assignment of buyer's interest under the contract, no assignment of rights in real property obtained for buyers pursuant to this contract shall operate to defeat any of the sponsoring broker's rights under the exclusive representation contract. Non-discrimination. I hope, as much as we've talked about this, we do not have to go into detail. However, some of the things that we don't think about is when a client says, because obviously, I'm just going to say blanket statements. This means you have to represent everybody no matter what, period. We represent everybody, anybody, okay? But some of the things that fall under this that we don't think about is when your client says, so is this a safe neighborhood? That is actually under non-discrimination. Safe is in the eye of the beholder, and that's none of your business. And that's what you say. You know, I cannot give you information about this because, again, beyond my area of expertise. There are websites you can look if you're interested in finding out any statistics. questions?
I got that at an open house. There was this gentleman who used to live in the neighborhood like back in the 80s and 90s. And he was just going on and on about, oh, this used to be an affluent neighborhood and
Wait.
this and that. And I'm like, well, I honestly didn't really know how to react to that. So I kind of just let Julie do the talking because I'm like, I don't even know, how do you respond to, this was an affluent neighborhood. What am I supposed to say? Well, it's still pretty good.
I actually
Yeah,
just
no.
redirect, or I just redirect sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, really? When did you live here? Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's nice. Where did you live? I just redirect them. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get
Oh,
off
did you
the
stay in touch
subject.
with any of your old neighbors? You know, like whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you stay away from the protected classes and protected subjects, you don't ever want to comment to it. You know, like you wouldn't say, "Oh, okay, well, thanks for that." You know, whatever. Just you just want to go, "Hey, so, yeah, I love that. Did you stay touch with any of your old neighbors? That's great." That kind of thing.
Yep.
Just redirect. Big
Awesome.
smile. You got pretty face area. You'll be all right.
That's right. Yep. Deflect. Don't even touch it.
Yep.
Let people say crazy things.
Oh my God!
Again,
And I don't even know how dumb they sound sometimes. I'm like, really? Who says stuff like that? Come on.
right? Yeah. Yeah. So unnecessary. So
Yeah.
yep, deflect. Smile and nod, change subject.
And you always
Um,
remember something else too, guys. Not every comment or question has to be answered or responded to. Ever. Like
Yeah.
ever.
Yep.
That's it. Ever.
From what I can remember, I think after he was like drawing on about it, I think I kind of said something about like, well, what about this house interests you or
Nice.
disinterest you?
Way to go.
Yep. Whatever comes to mind that's different than what he said.
Way to go, Ariel. That's great.
Yep. Okay, so modification of this contract, there's no modifications. It is valid and binding. Again, they can get out of it. You just have to have a written agreement, but you can't modify it. Electronic signatures, we are in the age, especially with COVID, that things are being signed electronically. It's just saying those are acceptable. Recordings within the properties, this is huge right now. I always let my buyers know there could be somebody recording something. I mean, heck, even before you get to the door, because people think it's fine standing on the sidewalk, but somebody's got a Ring doorbell. And if you've not experienced a Ring, it picks up a lot. You could be in the driveway of your car and they can still hear what you're saying.
Yep.
So just know the seller. And if you have the seller, we'll talk about that in a week and a half, has to disclose that they have potentially recording devices. Baby monitors are potential. They can take the other side of that and they can be at the neighbor's house. Listening. They're supposed to disclose if they have recording devices. And so many houses are so techie right now with Alexa and everything. I just tell my buyers, let's just go in. Let's really not talk a lot about the specifics. One of the things you want to make sure that they don't say is talking about how ugly the quilt is on the bed, because goodness knows there's a recording device in that bedroom, and that was great Aunt Sally's quilt and they loved her dearly, and she's passed now, and they say something awful about that quilt and they're like, oh yeah, she hurt our feelings, we're not selling them that house.
I have a
Right?
question.
Yeah.
So yesterday, or Tuesday, I heard him say that, but I thought it applied for indoor recordings, but it also is required for outdoor.
Yeah, so a Ring doorbell is a recording device, because they can pay for that service to record everything that happens at the Ring. Most people don't pay for the recorded portion, but you don't know, you have no idea. Just assume everybody's paying for the recorded portion.
All right, point for Bailey. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, woohoo.
Okay.
And Barry mentioned that disclosure also meant that we couldn't take pictures inside.
Yes, that's what I'm going to talk about next.
Okay.
So that is very true. So you cannot take pictures inside unless you have permission. So if I had a client, we were in this house that, man, the remodel job was stellar. And they had this inset tile in the bathroom that looked like a rug. It was so incredibly gorgeous, and it had not been pictured in the listing photos. Now, check and see if it is. If they're like, can I take a picture of this? Because I have to show this to my sister. Go through the listing photos first. If it's already in there, be like, oh, it's in the listing photos. I'll send you a copy. If you're like, oh, we're really not supposed to. Most people are just like, okay, fine, or if you really have to have it, give me a second, don't take it. I need to ask the agent if the sellers are okay with it, and then shoot the agent a text.
Is that the same for vacant homes as well? I thought it was just for occupied homes.
Every home.
Every home. It doesn't matter. Every home.
Look at it this way, they're not the owner of the house.
Yep.
Would you want someone coming in your house and taking a picture? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, even if you didn't live there, because who knows what they're taking those pictures for.
I know I wouldn't. I'm just saying I got dirty dishes in the sink.
Well, and realistically, the seller's agent took photos that were pertinent to the sale of the house.
Right.
Not like, oh, they've got this cool antique clock and my aunt loves antique clocks. I got to send her a picture of this. Nope.
Nope.
Okay, so this entire agreement is between our parties, whether written or oral. And here's one of the things that trips everybody up. I think a lot of people think this has to be signatures. It's not signatures. You're just, it's frustrating that in DocuSign, there's not boxes. I don't know why, because that would make it simple. I think that's why people get signatures, because there's no boxes to fill in. But this is really just your buyer's names, the buyer's address, and the date. Again, no box there, but you do have to put the date in. This is Keller Williams Marquis is who it's accepted by. Now, remembering that this is signed by Keller Williams and by Anita, who you're going to have to get the signature from. Phone number, actually, this also should be in, this is not required, but you can put in Keller Williams Marquis 01. But that's not required. It will not get kicked back for compliance if you don't have that, but that is what goes in that box. And this is wrong. This would be the office phone number, which is 307 5616. Okay, and you're going to send this to Anita with her compliance email. So if you don't already have that, if you've not used this before, it's KWM compliance. So not the Q part. KWM compliance 200, just the number, at gmail.com. And you send that to Anita with the signature block for her to sign. So remember, she's signing it, not you, because remembering at the top, this contract is between the office and your buyer, and then that's why it has the line to designate that you are the agent, though. Okay, and then when you scroll down a little bit, this is saying that the undersigned agrees that Keller Williams Marquis, the sponsoring broker, and any authorized representative can contact them by means of calls, text messages, fax, or electronic email at these following locations, addresses, and or telephone numbers. This covers you for the do not call list. So this again is printing the buyer's name or names, the phone numbers. Make sure you have everybody's phone numbers involved, even if there's 6 people buying this property. Don't do that, that's crazy. But but make sure you have everybody's phone numbers and everybody's emails, because this is saying that they gave you permission. So even if they're on the do not call list, you have permission. And then everybody's signatures and a fax number if that's appropriate. Okay, questions?
When we're in the system and we're filling this out in DocuSign, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we send it to the client.
Mm-hmm.
The client signs it. So when they send it back to us, we just forward it to Anita?
Well, it's not really a forward, but yes. So it's going to, when you're in DocuSign, as soon as they sign it, DocuSign sends it back to you. And then when you have it, then you're going to put Anita's, or if you have it already, I just set it up to where it goes to my clients and to Anita after, because you can put them in order of who gets it.
Okay.
And so you can put your buyers in, and you can put Anita as, say, third or second, you know, however many buyers you have, fifth if you have 4 buyers. And then that way it will automatically send it to Anita and then send it to you when everybody's signatures are on there. And then you
Okay,
post
that's
it.
what I was trying to get to.
Yep.
Yeah, because I know Anita has to see it. I just didn't know if I was sending it to her after I got it back or.
Yeah, no,
whatever.
it doesn't
Okay.
have to be a separate step. You can put it all in at one time in DocuSign. Super easy.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Chantel had a good question too. She said, is there a pre-signed one with Anita's, I'm assuming, signature on it? But no, she has to review them for compliance, meaning like, are all your stuff filled out correctly?
Right. If she pre-signs them, she's pre-signing something she doesn't know is accurate.
Correct.
So that would not be the legal way to do things.
Yo.
All right. So we've signed this. We've showed houses. You're going to write an offer. So one thing I want to show you is that you are going to, when you are going to show this property, I want you to print a copy of the MLS information. Print this, get your client's initials at the bottom of each page, usually 2 pages. You can print all the house pictures. Not that it happens often, but every now and then a seller switches out the appliances before closing. You'll have like some super crazy thing. And if you've already printed all the photos that were posted with the home and say, when we looked at the house, this was the refrigerator that was in there, not the one we just looked at in our final walkthrough.
And remember too that you don't want to print a full here. You want to print a customer copy.
Customer copy, client copy is what
Client
it's called.
copy. Thank you, Sheila.
Yeah. Yep. And so get their signatures of or initial. It just has to be initials. If you send it to them electronically, just put the initial blocks. There's not a spot for it, obviously. Just put the initial blocks at the bottom of each page. Make sure they see this before you go look at a house. And before you look at a house, before you even set up an appointment, so this is my open house for this weekend that I have. Go to the supplements right here. You're going to pull this up. I had a client who wanted to go look at a house, and I was like, wow, super cheap. What is going on with that house? Before we go look at it, I want to see what's going on with the disclosures. So you're going to open up anything that's here. So the plat that I have posted is it's on a lake. So I want them to be able to see the property and where it sits on the lake. And you want your buyer to sign off on that they're okay with it being there, that they like that location. Otherwise, why are they going to go look at it? Don't waste their time. So you want to look at the disclosures, right? So you're looking at the disclosures. When I looked at disclosures for this client on this house, and I was not this house, but a different house I was showing. And they were interested in it because it was crazy price. They were like, wow, we got to go see this house. I look at the disclosures. I went down here and it said, there is no plumbing in this house. Whoa. All the plumbing's been ripped out. And so then I called my client and I was like, hey, I know you want to go see this house tonight, but I looked at the disclosures and there is no plumbing. And she was like, what? Yep, it says no plumbing. Are you still interested in going to see it? And she was like, heck no. I don't have money to put plumbing in a house. And I was like, all right, so we're taking that one off the list. So we did not waste anybody's time because I looked at the disclosures first. And then after you look at all the disclosures, you want to send this to them to sign off on, that they know that like this house has no problems. Great. They know that. Done. Taken care of. This house has no problems. We're going to go take a look at it. Or if it has problems, what are those problems? And are they okay with that? Otherwise, if they're not okay with it, don't go see it. And if you don't show them, and I will tell you, I know a ton of agents that do not look at disclosures. So you don't look at the disclosures, your clients don't know, you write an offer and now you're having them sign the disclosures you spent time looking at it and writing out a contract, and now you're getting to the disclosures, and then an agent will call and go, hey, we didn't know that it didn't have any plumbing. What is going on? Well, you did not do your due diligence. That is not you doing your best job for your client, right? So pull those up, get those signed before you even go on to writing an offer, before you even go and show the house.
Which button was that? Because I'm on a tablet. Which button was that?
Sure. So when you're in the MLS and you're under the photos of the house, it's the little pieces of paper that are stacked. It's just to the left of showing time. And like there's a little door that's information about the open house. I don't know if you guys know this too, but even if you go to the left of all those little stacked pieces of paper, there's a virtual tour. And I do those on all of my listings because some people don't want to go see houses during COVID, but they want a virtual tour. So, so that's there too.
So if a buyer can't make it to a showing, should we maybe ask the seller or the seller's agent or ask the seller's agent beforehand if it's okay to like FaceTime your client while in their house?
Absolutely. I have a property right now and we have showings this weekend, 2 showings, people who live out of state, and their agents called me and said, can I video walk them through this house? Yep, absolutely. My seller, and you cannot say that. Even if one time your seller says yes, the next time you still have to call your seller again and say, hey, we have another buyer that would like to do a video walkthrough with their client because they're out of state or they're sick at home right now or something, or they're on quarantine. You have to ask every time. Your seller has to say, you cannot make those calls. Good question. Another point. All right. Okay. So make sure you have these because they're going to go with your offer. So we're going to go into your contract. So there are different kinds of contracts, just so you know. We're only going to go over buying a house. So, but there is land contracts, there's commercial property contracts. Know that you are going to need this addendum E. This lists all the personal property, which should be if in the MLS listing it says the refrigerator is staying, the stove is staying, and put stainless if it's stainless. Be specific. If there is a kitchen island that's on wheels, and they didn't say the island is staying, but they didn't say it's not staying, your buyer can say, we'd like the kitchen island that is in the photographs. And so that goes on there. They might counter. That's what this counter offer is for. So there's a form for that. And so know that you always have to use personal property. You may use counter offer. We're not going to go into those though, but just know you'll need those too. So your contract, if you are using DocuSign, will again auto-populate all of these things. If you took the time, which I would highly recommend because it will save you time, took the time to put the details in command, then it will auto-populate most of this. Dotloop will auto-populate most of it, except it does not auto-populate the date on all 11 pages. You're going to have to put the date in manually on Dotloop, but DocuSign does. Okay, so this is your 11-page offer contract. So the legal description, you are going to find, so this is why I said this a couple weeks ago, like I have a million tabs open when I'm writing a contract, because your information's right here. And why would you not just have it handy to copy and paste? Because I never want to type something in that I might make a mistake on the numbers, because some of these tax ID numbers are pretty lengthy, and you don't want to make a mistake on that. So if you can copy and paste, so much better. One of the good things too, you can click on the tax ID, that's why it's blue, to open up the tax information, or you can go to the tab up here and open the tax information. Okay, so when you're filling out the legal description, your legal description is going to be right here, legal description, right in your tax information. Just highlight it, copy, paste it right in there. Super easy. You don't have to memorize it or screenshot it and transfer the data. You're not going to make any mistakes. Copy and paste it right into legal description. Parcel number, that's your tax ID number. So again, highlight, copy and paste, just like on the MLS. You can do it there too. Either way, same number. So situated in whatever county, Madison in this case, commonly known as, so that's the physical address. So 24 Lakewood Court, Collinsville, Illinois, 62234, whole address, okay? With an approximate lot size. So we use acreage always. So you can go right down here, lot acres, copy paste, 0.529. Don't round to 0.53, put it exactly how it is, or round to 0.529, and you have to write out either AC or write out acres. Either way, it's acceptable. Okay, so mobile home. Probably most of us don't come across this. I've been doing this over 4 years and I've never sold a mobile home. Totally different animal. But unless I tell you otherwise, you are always going to fill in every blank. Why? One, because it makes sure that you don't miss one. And two, because that way it can never be altered. Should not be altered anyway. Once you write this and your buyer signs it, it cannot be altered. It has become a legal document once they've signed it. So somebody can't go back and fill in blanks afterward. So make sure you don't miss them. So put some dashes through here for mobile home, model number, ID number. Okay. They're kind of like selling a used car. So they have that information. Dual agency. If your buyers have agreed to dual agency, if you are the seller, they need to initial this. Even if they agreed to dual agency, but you are not the seller's agent, they don't have to sign this. It's only if you're the seller's agent too, and they've agreed. Section 3 is your offer. So tenancy, they are going to go through that with the title company to choose how they're going to take tenancy. I'm sure you guys remember that from your licensing class, that whole big chapter. And guess what? You don't actually have to know any of them. The title company will cover that with your clients. Purchase price. So while you cannot give them advice and say, I think you should buy it at X, you can tell them what a comp range might be for it, but ultimately it is their decision. But many buyers will say, but what should I offer? Say, I can't tell you what to offer. You have to feel that in your heart. You have to know that it's a number you feel good about. You can, like I said, you can run some comps for them. Do that, but give them a range. Earnest money. This is not a binding contract without some earnest money. Those vary. There's nothing they have to put down for earnest money. I have a lot of clients that put 500. Some agents always recommend 1,000. In Chicago, it's often a percentage of the house price. It just depends on your area and what is acceptable, but it has to be something. Even if they're getting a 100% VA loan and they are not required to put anything down, they are required to put some earnest money down. I had one contract one time so far where my buyer said, I only have $100 in my pocket, to like in my checkbook today, that can come out of my bank account, you know, today or whatever. And so I can only do $100. We put $100 down and the seller accepted it, but it has to have some money in there. This is to be deposited within. This is a written out number, and this is the digital number. So when we were in the beginning of COVID and some title companies were closed, I put 7. So you write out 7, and I put business days. So I put 7 verbally, like written out, SEVEN, business, and then the number 7 days after the effective date, because they might have had to mail them. Right now, we don't really have to do that because they're open, and so they can just drop them off. I prefer 3 business days. And I like to put business because we've got weekends, there's holidays. If you put business, it gives them 3. And remember, title companies are not open on Saturday and Sunday. So they cannot go drop a check off on a Saturday. They're not going to be open. So I like to put business days. It's up to you. But it gives them maybe Friday, Monday, and Tuesday to get it dropped off after the effective date. So they're not doing it today. They're doing it after all parties have signed. So that means after you have sent this to them, they have signed, you've sent it to the listing agent, he or she has signed, and then he or she has sent it to the sellers, and they have all signed. So now you have a binding contract, and that is the effective date when the last person has signed it. Even if the agent doesn't send it to you until the next day, because maybe it happened at 9 o'clock at night. Personally, I do not do any paperwork that late. Nothing's happening anyway. Nothing's open. I'm not going to be on the phone trying to solve the world problems or calling an agent at 9 o'clock at night. Just wait till 8 o'clock the next morning. So the effective date is when the last person signed it that is required to sign. This blank, I wish DocuSign had as a square because it is the title company. If the listing agent did not specify what title company you're closing at, call the listing agent. I'm going to say this several times throughout this, call the listing agent, because I actually want you to call the listing agent before you write this to make sure you have all of the pertinent information. Don't be afraid to call another agent. Everybody wants to make deals happen. Everyone wants all contracts to be filled out accurately. So never be afraid to call the agent on the other side and have an actual phone conversation for clarity. If they say, you know what, my seller is out of state, they've moved out of the house, they don't care where you close because they're closing remotely. They're going to sign the paperwork and it's going to be overnighted. So they're not coming in anyway. You can close wherever you want. This is why it's important and why it's on the Amazing Race to talk to title companies, so that you also have them as your preferred partners, so that you know, I love XYZ title company. They said we can pick whoever. How about we pick the one close to your home? And I know that those people are wonderful to work with. So make sure you have some title companies that you prefer to work with. So that's what goes right there. Number 6 is the home warranty. I always recommend my buyers ask for the home warranty. Even if it's not in the MLS listing, sometimes the sellers will know, like the AC, like at the end of its life. And as some reassurance to the buyers, they say, you know what, we know this is old. Don't undercut us on the price because of it, because we're offering the home warranty on it. And then in that case, the agent may have it listed. Warranty is provided by seller at X dollar amount by X company. And so you're going to put that in there. If they do not, again, call the listing agent and just say, hey, we didn't see if a home warranty was included. Is there? She may just have left it off of the agent remarks. Always, 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 always. Can I say always? A little bit more. Always read the, where do I have it? I go in too many times. Yeah, here. So always read the agent remarks. Oh, that's why. That's where I am. So the agent remarks, these are the ones your clients don't see. They see the marketing remarks. This is what they see online. Only agents see this part up here. Okay. So always read that for all that pertinent information. Okay. All right.
Chantel had a question.
Oh, yeah.
In the comments. She was asking if the buyers and sellers, do they have to use the same title company?
Yes. Yep. So if they have designated which title company they're using, that's the title company everybody uses. So sometimes it's inconvenient. I had a house, my clients were moving from Trenton to Collinsville, and the house they're buying is in Collinsville, but the sellers had designated to close at a title company in Swansea. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like, why would we go all the way to Swansea? But that's what the seller said. Now, maybe you can talk to, again, call the listing agent and be like, hey, I see it's Swansea. Is there a reason for that? Could we close at a title company in Collinsville where the house is? Maybe they didn't care. And so maybe she just threw one out there and she's like, yeah, it's fine. You know, pick whichever one you want then. But again, the reason to have that relationship with the listing agent.
Before you go on, I have another quick question. If you could go back to the listing on the MLS.
Yeah.
And like scroll all the way down to where it says sell options or something like that, where it lists like conventional seller terms.
Oh, yeah.
Are those like optional? Because like if I had someone who was having an FHA loan and it only said cash or conventional, is there room to negotiate that, or is it set in stone?
That is a good question. So here's the thing. Again, why you should not be afraid. Don't treat your telephone like it weighs 50 pounds. You should never be afraid. I hate when I hear that agents are afraid of calling other agents. Don't be afraid of calling the listing agent. I do it every deal, even before I show a house. So if I have a client who has a VA loan and VA is not on there, before I even show the house, I will call the listing agent and say, I have a buyer who's interested in the house. However, they are a VA and they're not interested in any other programs. They want VA because you can switch sometimes to make something happen. But they want VA. And so is there a reason you did not list VA as acceptable? There are a lot of agents out there that just always only put cash and conventional. They don't check all the boxes.
Also, they're
but it may be that it won't pass VA, and that's what the agent will tell you is, yeah, I didn't check it because it will definitely not pass VA. It's got too many big things wrong with it. It's not going to pass, or it's not going to pass FHA. Because that happens a lot too. It will not pass. However, sometimes I'll call and say, hey, my client's got FHA. Will this not pass? Is that why you don't have it on the list? And they go, oh no, I definitely think it'll pass. I just didn't check the box. Okay, but that's why you want to look at that before you even show the house, and then you want to make that call.
Okay, I'm glad that I asked that question because I was on the MLS looking for a buyer that I'm working with now, and they're strictly FHA, but I found this house that it's older, but it was remodeled. Like I think the age of the home was in the 1800s, but it was completely remodeled on the inside. And before I even sent it to them, I didn't even know if this was a contender because it didn't have like etc. or anything. It just said cash conventional.
Yeah. Sometimes just lazy agents. But that's what, so just call the agent, just ask.
Okay.
Because in as much as they might not want to take the nanosecond to check the box, they do want offers. So just ask, will this I have a potential buyer. Before I waste my buyer's time looking at it, also your time, before I waste my buyer's time looking at it, we want to make sure that they would be able to put an offer if this is the right one.
Now, are loans standard? Like, would an FHA even consider an 1800 house?
Oh yeah, maybe, as long as everything's okay.
Okay.
You know, you just don't want any big predications, things that have to be fixed before the loan can happen, if the seller is not willing to fix those things.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Chantel had a question.
Okay.
She said, what do you do when the seller doesn't respond? And I was going to just say, yeah, call them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the listing agent, right?
Right.
You're saying the listing agent isn't responding?
I think that's what she's saying.
Yeah, I had one of those last year. She told me she was taking a break. And
On
I
sabbatical.
said, yeah, she said, I'm on sabbatical. And I said, but your sign is in a yard. So who in your office is taking care of it while you're on your break? Because she didn't have a co-agent listed. That's her responsibility. Imagine her poor sellers. That's why we didn't need to be stellar agents, because there are some not stellar agents. And she said, hold on. She didn't get back to me till the next day with the name of an agent in the office who was also pretty lax on their practices.
You had the offer written, didn't you, Sheila?
We had an offer written and I could not get anybody to answer me.
That's a pretty rare case, wouldn't you say, Sheila?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's only been the only one I've ever had. But what do you do? So I was sending her texts, emails, phone calls, because I call. I'm not afraid of calling agents. You shouldn't be, ever. There's no reason to be. And then after that, if you cannot get an answer, you call Anita, and Anita will make that call.
Yep.
That is the answer.
Yep. And if we can, I would also say too that if you might could call Barry, Sheila, or I too, if Anita's unavailable, or if you want to try with us first, that's a possibility. I'm not off. Sheila, I don't mean to contradict you. I just was thinking to myself,
no, it's okay. My answer is always then that's we're all just agents. Anita's the managing broker, right. Like, so that's always my, she's got more clout.
Yes, she does. I'm even afraid of her. I'm just kidding. Right. I love Anita. My people too.
Okay. So home warranties, again, why you want to get to know your home warranty people and why, what makes you different than the other ones? Why would I choose you? Know that all home warranty companies, I have one, give me 1 second. I keep these at my desk. So home warranty companies, all of these wonderful brochures that explain what they offer, what everything covers. Get to know these. You are not the salesperson for these. Let me say that. I kind of wish this wasn't even on our contract. You are not the salesperson, but you do need to know a little bit. And you need to know what the prices are. The prices are all on here. So you want to pick a home warranty company for your client if one is not designated, and again, I always recommend my clients ask for the home warranty. They can always counter and say no, but you can ask. It's just peace of mind. But know the price of whichever program your client needs. If there's a pool or a hot tub, make sure that you're choosing the program with the price plus the extra for the hot tub, the extra coverage. So that your client gets that, so that they don't think the hot tub's covered and it's not, because you did not put it in there. So you're asking waived or provided by the buyer or by the seller or the buyer. So you do have to check all of those from X company. So you have to put a company name. If you do not put a company name in here, you're going to be writing an amendment. So already we're only on page 1. And how many times have I said you have to write an amendment if this stuff doesn't happen? You don't want to write an amendment. Fill this out completely. Not to exceed the cost of blank. Now, There may be a program, like maybe the minimal program is like $490, but then there's a program that's $630, and then there's a program that's $800, and your buyer's good with the $630 package, right? So you can put not to exceed the cost of $630. Maybe they counter and say, hey, we'll pay for the $490 package, but we're not paying for the $630. It doesn't usually happen, but maybe. Yeah, Ariel.
So with the home warranty, is that something that is paid up front, or is that like a seller debit or a
At
buyer
closing,
credit?
yes.
Okay.
Yep, at closing. Okay, so inclusions and exclusions. So these are things that are attached to the house that your buyer will assume comes with the house. And maybe in the agent remarks, she said, what's one that I've actually seen happen? Curtain rods. Barry just had one of those recently. There was a big fight over curtain rods. I had last year, a woman had painted the ceiling fan blades to match the furniture that she had painted for the room. So in the agent remarks, I know it was a super cute, like little tea room for her grandkids, so adorable. But she said, I'm taking, in the agent remarks, the agent put that the ceiling fan in the third white bed, everything was white with these pretty little flowers. So she's very specific. This ceiling fan is coming out of the house. So ceiling fan. So that's not coming. So that's when you'll mark these things 95, 98% of the time. All these things are staying with the house. But every now and then, so you want to make sure you know those. Also excluded, maybe there's a deep freezer in the basement, and it's in the agent remarks that they're taking the deep freezer. Just so that your buyers know it's not staying. You need to write those in so that your buyers know we are agreeing that we understand this isn't staying. So make sure you write those in. At the bottom of every single page, your buyers need to initial these blocks. If you have more than 2, just add more blocks. Again, address and date at the top of every single one of the 11 pages. Closing and possession. Again, not being afraid of the telephone. This is one I see agents do all the time. So closing, your clients are like, oh, well, we want to move in tomorrow. And maybe they thought they could buy the house tomorrow because maybe up front you didn't set the expectation that closings traditionally take a minimum of 30 days. Right now, because of all the refis, they are taking longer. You want to make sure that you have already established a relationship with their lender. As soon as your client has that pre-approval, contact the lender and introduce yourself. And say, I see that they are pre-approved with a VA loan. How are you guys doing on those? What's your closing expectations on VAs? And right now, I've heard everything from 45 to 60 days, which seems crazy, but there was one lender I had that she was like, absolutely, we can't get VAs done right now before 60 days. And so you want to know, it doesn't matter what your client is like, I want to move in 2 weeks. It's the lender. Now, sometimes, again, with those questions at the beginning with your client, they actually can't buy the house for 90 days. So you need to know that from your client, but you also need to have that working relationship with the lender to know what their expectations. So everybody's expectations match. So nobody's disappointed. Here's a fun, horrible statistic. If you have to move this date out, if you have to write an extension, an addendum, to ask for an extension on closing, the chances of you closing is lowered by 50%. Because these days, sellers probably have multiple offers and they might have a backup contract waiting for yours to fall through. So you never, that phrase, under promise, over deliver. In the state of Illinois, this is the best phrase, I think, on this whole contract. The closing under this contract shall take place on or before. That's great. You can write an addendum and move it up If everybody is ready to go, you can move it up, but moving it back just disappoints everyone. Rather make everybody excited.
And you don't need an amendment to move it up. Don't
well, true. Yeah.
Tell you that you do. You do not.
I know. I like to write an amendment for everything.
The only time I would do that is if it were like a precarious situation where the seller was giving us heck and just misbehaving in any way, and it was my buyer client, then I would want to commit that person to a date. That would be the only time I would do that.
True. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
All right. So financing. These next couple pages are just about how the money is being dealt with. So the majority of your deals are going to be mortgage loans. Again, these are things that that you need to make sure that you have clear from your client's lender. Whatever this percentage is, if it's a VA loan, it's 100%. If it is FHA and they have to put 3.5% down, so you're putting 96.5%. If it is conventional and they're putting down 5, 10, 20%, you're going to put 80, 90, whatever that is. This is how much of the purchase price is being mortgaged. This one's kind of one of those weird answers. This is just saying that if the interest rate goes higher than a certain percentage, they might not be willing to buy the house. So right now, rates are so crazy low. They might be getting 3.25, 3.5. But if they're like, yeah, but if things take a turnaround and it goes above 5, I'm not buying this house. This number is just one of those, like, does your buyer have a certain interest rate that they won't pay more than? So that's what this is. So whether you make that 4, you make it 5, most people don't have it. I have found most of my buyers don't have an opinion on it. They just want that house because they know that they're really low right now, and they know 10 years ago they paid a lot more interest. So a lot of them don't have an opinion, but you want to know if they do. And then this is the term of no less than, say, 30 years, amortized over 30 years, unless they're doing 10 or 15, which they aren't usually. But that's usually, those are 30 and 30. This is another thing that you need to have matched expectations with your buyers and lender. If you are asking the seller to pay some of your buyer's closing costs, so maybe your buyer doesn't have any extra cash. They're getting a 100% loan. They don't have any money in the bank. They could barely afford the inspections. Heaven forbid they couldn't afford inspections. And to buy this house, they need to ask the seller to pay some of their closing costs. You need to know what those closing costs are. There are apps for that. But the best thing, to kind of give you a round number, the best thing is to call the lender, because the lender knows your mutual client's financials. And you say, hi, Susan, this is Sheila Riggs from Keller Williams Marquis, checking on Susie Byers' loan program, and we're getting ready to write an offer on this house at this address. This is how much we're going to offer. She does not have any cash in her account for closing costs. We're going to write in our offer what we want to ask the seller to pay for. What do you recommend we put in there? How much money does she need? And the lender will give you a number. So don't be afraid of the phone. Now, with as crazy as this market is, houses are going at asking price. They're going at list price or more. So if there's a multiple offer situation you might be in, and this number, whatever this is, if the house is listed at 150 and you're going to ask for 3,000 in closing costs, the seller is going to be like, well, I'm not getting 150 anymore. I'm getting 147. And you've asked for the warranty. So that's another 600, maybe, whatever that number is. So I'm getting that less too. So if that may make the difference in you winning an offer, you may need to talk to your buyer and say, okay, so your lender says we need to ask for $3,500 and you want to be competitive and get this house, right? So maybe our offer price needs to be $3,500 more. It means you're going to mortgage $3,500 more, but you don't have to have the cash at closing. How does that sound? What do you think? That's a good way to negotiate that and not have the seller feel like they're paying something they might not feel like they have to pay. They might have lots of offers where they don't have to pay closing costs. If your buyer does not need the seller to pay the closing costs right now, don't ask for it unless they need it. The pre-approval letter, obviously, we've told you many, many times to have a pre-approval before you're showing houses. So that you know that you're not wasting your buyer's time looking at houses that they are not approved to buy. So you will have it attached because you should have that pre-approval. If for whatever reason you do not, you can check that it will be submitted by the date. That date should be like tomorrow. ASAP, you should have that submitted to the listing agent if you do not have it in hand today. Alrighty. They can terminate if you don't have that to them. They can terminate if you go past the pre-approval deadline by 5 days. Okay, so this next section, that's another one of those weird things. So the buyer must satisfy the balance of these financing contingencies within blank days after the effective date or 10 days prior to the closing date, whichever date is earlier. Just make these dates the same. You're just doing a little calendar math, right? So 10 days prior to the closing date, you've set, oh, has something that fell off my wall. So you set the closing date for March 11th. And so make this date when you're looking at March 1st, however many days that is after the effective date. So count those days. And 7 times however many weeks plus whatever it is, make that those days. It's easy. I mean, you can, if you know your closing date is 60 days out, you can say 60 days. That's fine too. And then just know that that contingency is going to have to be met 10 days before that. So whichever way you want to do it.
How does the appraisal work into that number?
We are getting there.
Sorry.
It's not there yet.
Not getting a bunch of points, I'm just saying, you only get one for one question. Just kidding.
But keep asking because you're asking good ones.
I love it.
Where we're getting there. So buyer is required to immediately apply for financing. So as soon as you have the accepted contract, you are going to, or if you hire Pam, or whoever you have on your team for your transaction manager, coordinator, that person who's responsible is going to send that contract to the lender immediately, the full contract. And that way that's sent off. I also send a copy to the title company, even though the listing agent should do that, but I like to make sure that it has been done. So I also send the contract to the title company. So you're sending it immediately to the lender. Yay! We won the contract, and let's get started. Looking forward to working together. So that's awesome. That's what all this says.
I do all that.
So this is just saying what kind of financing they're getting: conventional, FHA, rural development, VA, other, and inserting whichever letter. This is going to go over the details of what all of those loan programs are. So we're not going to read these in detail. Again, buyer's initials, address, date. It has to be at the top and the bottom of each page. So this other, I'm going to go down to here, C, D, E, F. Like I said, as long as I've been doing this, I have never done any of these. Rick, same thing. He's been in this about as long as me. And he's never done one either, as of a week ago when we talked about it. They just don't happen very often these days. So we're not going to touch on them. because if you need to do it, we'll talk about it. That we can have that conversation. Cash transactions, that's in here too.
Have you had a cash transaction before? Like, are
yeah,
they
but only on
quicker?
land. I haven't done cash on a house. Yes. Oh yeah, they can definitely happen quicker. I mean, I think Rick just closed one recently that was only 2 weeks.
Yep.
So as long as the title company has time to pull the title and make sure it's clear, that's all you need.
And proof of
So
funds.
pretty much title
Yeah,
is what draws out the process, title, and making sure that the inspections are where they need to be and you don't have to fix things.
Yeah, so the title that actually I wouldn't say that really draws it out. I mean, as far as cash, because you have to get through that, but any other kind of deals, any other financing, I wouldn't really say it's the title company that's the longest. It's a financing takes a while. I mean, you can be through, well, you will be through inspections, negotiating inspections, things being fixed, the appraisal, all that will be done, and still financing still has to happen even after those things, because maybe you negotiated a different price because of how the inspections came about. And so then when you negotiate a different price, then financing, the lender has to be told that, and you have to send that that amendment to the lender. So then they have to go through that. They have to verify employment 2 days before you close with the client. So all those things, there's financing things that are taking place up until the end, where everything else will already be done.
Okay.
So
right there that you just said, Sheila.
Yeah.
There's financing things happening right up until the very end, which Sheila mentioned earlier. Make sure they keep their credit good and things like that. They don't buy anything, and the reason for that is every single mortgage, I don't care who it is, they will pull a credit 24 hours before closing to make sure that your clients have not purchased anything. My client went out and bought about I don't know, $10,000 worth of furniture one time.
Furniture is a huge thing. They do that a lot.
Sadly, furniture to a house that she did not get because she did that. So,
yeah.
So the lender goes right up into the day of closing. Like, they keep an eye on everything in that way.
Yeah. Changing jobs.
Yeah.
Right now with COVID, I mean, I don't hear it so much, but in the beginning when people were being furloughed, if they're furloughed, I had a house that it only happened once during all of COVID, but and it was a nurse, and she got furloughed a week before we were supposed to close. And God. So they wouldn't give her that. I mean, obviously she was going to go back to her job at some point. Her job actually even gave her a date when they expected her to be going back, but it was months down the road, and the lender's not going to let you buy a house that you don't have an income for 3 more months.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you said not changing jobs, what about promotion within the same department? Is that
That's
something
the same thing.
Is that okay to do?
Yeah, a promotion's great. Same employer and you're making more money, great.
Okay.
We like them like that.
Unless, you know what? Here's a caveat to that. That is a good question. If the buyer has qualified for a grant, because grants are income based, you can't make more than whatever the X dollar amount is to get the grant. And now they got a promotion. That I actually did deal with that in December. She got more hours at work. Wasn't even a promotion. She just got more hours. And when they verified her employment and now her income was more, she didn't qualify for the grant anymore. And the grant was paying her down payment that was required for her loan program. And she didn't have the cash to now pay the down payment herself. So then the lender scrambled. We extended the closing. The lender got her in a new program. I mean, it was bananas.
What a mess.
Chantel asked.
She still got the house.
Chantel asked if what happens if they went from W-2 to self-employed?
Same thing, job change. That will definitely affect lending.
Do they judge people harder or harsher with self-employment versus W-2?
Different documentation.
It's just more paperwork. I mean, because we're self-employed, right? So when we were buying our house, I just had to, I mean, it's just more paperwork. You have to turn it. You have to prove that you make that money because you don't have, you don't have a boss that's giving you a paycheck every 2 weeks. That's regular money that says, yes, as long as she works here, she's going to make X dollar amount every 2 weeks. This job isn't like that.
You have to have a P&L too.
Yes. Yep. A lot more paperwork. So, but it still happens. It's not judging harsher. It's just that you have to prove that you will have income that will pay that mortgage payment.
She just
They
said
don't
you have
want
to
the
have a
house back.
P&L too. What's a P&L?
Oh,
Your
profit
profit and loss.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Chauncey is leading that. If you don't know Chauncey Mixon, he is leading that committee, and they will meet once a month, third Wednesday at, I think his are at 1 o'clock on the third Wednesday.
Yeah, he was in here earlier.
Yeah, I know, just for the very beginning. So, but yeah, if you want to be part of that committee, that's going to be something that we'll learn there, is how to do that. Okay, we way a little bit off track, but but good questions. Okay, so here's the appraisal. We're at number 10. The appraisal must be obtained no later than the financing contingent deadline, or if the contract is cash, then that's within 20 days after the effective date. Make sense? So same as the finance contingency. Whew, talked a lot this morning. All right, property inspection contingencies. So even if properties are being sold as is, your buyer is still allowed to do inspections, all or any of the inspections. And there's a lot, and none of them are required. They are all optional. However, all recommended to make sure that your buyer is not buying something that they don't know that there might be some huge expensive things to take care of. I'll tell you, sewer and septic. Oh, if I have a buyer, it's happened, that just does not, they're like, I cannot get all of those inspections. And even if you can get the inspectors to put it on closing, and she was just like, I just can't. I'm like, please do the sewer. It is an old house in an old neighborhood. If that sewer is not good, you're gonna be eating ramen the rest of your life. Please get a sewer inspection. And she did, and the sewer was good, but you don't know. So so no matter what, they can have inspections done. They have to do them within 20 days. You have to have the inspection response to the seller's agent. So I never tell my buyer, hey, you got 20 days to get this set up. I say, set it up, hopefully within a week. That's what we want to see. Get it set up within a week. Depending on if they're getting if they're getting the home inspection and the home inspector is also doing the radon and the termites, so they're going to do the home and the termite on the first day, but they might drop off the radon, and then that needs 48 hours. So then they pick up the radon 2 days later, and then you get the report the next day after that. You need time. And then maybe that first day, maybe your buyer can't go over the inspection, like they're swamped with work or something's going on. They can't go over it for 2 days. You want to make sure you have enough time built in. Now, that being said, in the inspections with termites, those have to be to the seller's agent within 24 hours of you getting that report. So no matter what you're doing with the other inspections, when you get that termite report, your client needs to sign off on that, whether you're asking for them to treat it or it's all good. If it's all good, it doesn't really matter. But if you're asking them to treat it, you have to get that to the agent within 24 hours of getting that report, or they can say, oh, you missed the deadline. So know your deadlines. That's why we want you to memorize this. This is the studying before the test. Memorize this because it's so important that you can miss deadlines. I've been on the other side of it. I've been the listing agent, and the buyer's agent didn't know her deadlines and she missed them. And then they were asking us for things. And I was like, I'm sorry, you are going to have to tell your clients that you missed the deadline. My
But the
people may
transaction
or may not
coordinator
fix
knows.
these things, but they're not required to.
But your transaction manager knows.
When you have a transaction manager or a transaction coordinator, they know your deadlines, and then you're not going to miss them. That's awesome.
I'm
Worth
sorry,
her
guys.
weight in gold.
I'm sorry, you guys. I couldn't resist the opportunity to make a joke. Sorry. My bad.
Right? This is your due diligence to make sure that your client knows how important all of these things are. Make sure with your buyer that when they're walking into it's a used house. You wouldn't buy a used car and expect it to be exactly like it should be off the lot. Let them know it's a used house. When those inspection reports come back, they'll be 67 pages long because they include pictures and everything and lots of details. The biggest thing you want to look at are major concerns and safety issues. Safety issues will sometimes be GFIs. Those aren't even always a big thing. Like old houses don't have GFIs. Maybe nobody updated them. You don't want to use those as sticking points. Look for big things that are major concerns that a handyman can't do later or something like that. Stick
My
to
mom
those.
always told me, pick your battles.
Absolutely. Never ask for the entire inspection report to be fixed.
Pick your
It's
battles.
not realistic. They're buying a used house. There's going to be some things that are not perfect, or buy new construction. And still, they might not be perfect.
Our first, me and my fiance's first house, when we were selling it, the first set of buyers walked out after we wouldn't fix anti-tipping on the stove.
Good Lord.
They didn't have a good agent that made sure that they had matched expectations.
Absolutely.
Because a good buyer's agent will say, it's a used house. I don't know anybody that has the anti-tipping thing on their stove.
Right. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Everything's anti-tipping now, dressers and yeah, but no, yeah. Okay, so time frames. Make sure you know your time frames. What was that?
That was my mom saying hello.
Oh, hi. Okay, so environmental defects. This is your radon. Structural defects. They can get a structural inspector to come in. If, like my house, we have a floor you could roll a marble across. It's just the way my house is built. It's not even a defect. We had a structural inspector come in. It's $500 and it's fine. It's just crooked. But you might want to know those things. I mean, we did. Inspection remedies. So this goes over who pays what. That again, you get your inspection. You write a request for the repairs that you would like to do. Here's one thing to keep in mind on those. We'll talk about it when we talk about inspections. But so if nothing's wrong and you say, you check the box, we did the inspections, nothing's wrong, we sign off on it. The seller still has to sign, we acknowledge that you did the inspection and nothing's wrong. But there are a lot of sellers agents that don't send it back to you. And you go, hey, I need that back for compliance because it's a legal document. I need it back with the seller's signature acknowledging that we're not asking for anything. So make sure you get that back. What's that? Or your transaction manager makes sure that you get it back.
Sorry. That's actually the purpose. That's the purpose of the document is notification and acknowledgement. Really.
Yep. Everybody signs everything. Okay. So monetary adjustments. You need written agreements within 10 days. If you don't have that, either party may terminate the contract. Liability disclaimers. Again, you're going to read through all of these things and make sure that you know what your remedies are, who is able to do what. Your wood infestation report, we talked about this earlier. Government inspections and occupancy permits. So every town has something different these days. You can't even go by county. Some have occupancy inspections for any time the house changes hands, whether it's rent or purchase. Some are just purchase, some are just rent. You can call the city hall of any town if you are not sure. I know there's a list somewhere with GGAR. I'm assuming Razzie has it too, that they try to keep updated. But it's just so easy to pick up the phone and call City Hall and say, hi, Sheila Riggs with Keller Williams Marquis. I am selling a house in your town. Just wondering if there's an occupancy permit required. It is the seller's responsibility, but just so that your buyers also know that it's the seller's responsibility to do that. And then the city will make them fix anything that the city deems before they're allowed to sell the house anyway. Might not even be an issue on your inspection because the city's going to make them fix something. Again, initials, address and date. Access to the property. So this is saying that the seller is agreeing. When the seller signs this, they're agreeing that you have access for things like your inspections. If a contractor needs to come in for your final walkthrough at the end, a lot of times I'll have a client that says, my mom's giving us her old sectional. We just want to see if it's going to fit, or else she's going to sell it to somebody else if it's not. Can we come in? Seriously, like, here's the two sides of that. Try not to inconvenience the seller. If the house is vacant, no big deal. If the agent has told you that they both work during the day and there's no kids at home, so it doesn't matter, you can go show it during the day, just call the agent and say, hey, they want to take some measurements for furniture. Is that okay? We don't want to inconvenience anyone, but if it's not an inconvenience, we'll go when it's good for you guys. And just make that call. But they're agreeing that you can have access for the things that you have to have access for. Adjustments and closing costs. So again, this is who's responsible for what. So make sure you read through all of those and know that. Address and date. Deed of conveyance, evidence of title. These are all the things that the title company is going to take care of, and make sure that your buyer is getting a house that nobody else can lay claim on, or that there's no liens against. They're going to make sure you have a clear title for your buyer. So that is their due diligence and their responsibility. And you're going to get a document, the title commitment, that says that yes, it's clear and we're good to go. Survey at the buyer's cost. If the buyer feels like they need a survey, maybe they're buying some farmland that was pieced off from family, and they want to make sure that they know without a shadow of a doubt, like, we want a survey, we want to be sure we know our lot lines and that it's all free and clear. They can pay for that if they want to, but that is their option. Homeowners insurance. The lender is going to make sure that they have homeowners insurance, but it is something to talk to your buyers up front about and just let them know this is going to be another cost. You have to have homeowners insurance when you have a mortgage. Flood insurance. If the house, this is exactly why you want to read all of the information on the MLS, the agent remarks. If the house is in a floodplain, the listing agent should have that information on there. So you should know this house is in a floodplain. They are going to need flood insurance. You can call around and ask insurance companies about what they would charge for flood insurance. Your client can call around. You can call the listing agent and say, we're just wondering what the seller pays for their flood insurance. And there will be people who choose not to buy that house because flood insurance can be as much as a mortgage payment. It's high. Mine subsidence. If they're maybe they need mine subsidence insurance. Belleville has that a lot. So even me, I'm a little more than half a mile from a mine, and they were going to charge me mine subsidence on my insurance, and I was like, I am over half a mile, and he was like, all right, I'll take it off.
I have it in my house in Collinsville.
Yeah. But you have to know, like, look at your insurance bill. People don't look at them. Look at it because they put it on mine and didn't tell me. And I looked at it and I was like, I'm more than half a mile away. And he was like, okay. Risk of loss. So if there is a tragic incident, fire, wind, hail, tornadoes, whatever it is up to the seller to put the house back in the shape that the buyer put it under contract at, as much as possible. There can be things that they've agreed to between the buyers and sellers. If a tragedy like that happens, there can be agreements. Hail, the roof. Maybe the seller is gonna, the insurance is gonna replace the roof, but they're like, hey, is it okay if we give the roofing company the buyer's information so the buyers can pick the roofing material since it's gonna be their house? So they may come to those kind of agreements. The seller has to give the buyer written notice of damage and how it's being fixed, insurance proceeds that will be payable to the buyer potentially. They have to give them that notice in writing.
We have to be careful of the loan because some loans require those things to be done prior to closing the loan. Also,
Absolutely.
Hail is the most common thing for paragraph 24, or I'm sorry, paragraph 23. Yeah, most common. So when you get an inspector back and the inspector says, I see hail damage on the roof, the very first thing that you want to do is call the listing agent and say, hey, there's hail damage. You might want to have them check into their insurance.
Yep.
The lender will let you do it if you have to do it after. Just check with the lender too.
Yeah, so making sure that, again, with those phone conversations or those emails, making sure that you're in contact with all parties so everybody's on the same page. So earnest money we talked about, mediation, arbitration, litigation. So hopefully nobody ever has to get to the point where they're suing anybody. It can go through the association if there's a disagreement on something. It should. Especially, again, so this even says right up front, if it's less than $5,000, they can file through small claims. I have had a couple of those that were plumbing issues that the seller definitely knew about. And even though the buyer didn't do an inspection, but then there was a problem later and they said, you did not disclose this. And in one case, the seller worked for the city. And so definitely knew that there was a sewer issue and didn't disclose it. So they lied when they were selling the house and they were financially responsible for taking care of it. But he did have to, it got a little ugly after we closed. So all of that is spelled out. These are just definitions of all those things we've talked about and that we've talked about the definitions of. This is your little dictionary of your contract. This is your address and date again. More of your dictionary describing things. So faxes and electronic copies. Everybody needs copies of everything. Remember that. Everyone needs copies of everything after they've been signed. DocuSign, after everybody has signed, sends, it will send your buyer the copy after. Dotloop doesn't. So after it's been signed, you need to send that to them. If you use Dotloop, use DocuSign. Unless you're Pam.
Well, I'm a certified looper, so it makes a difference.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Which then if you hire Pam, then you are too, because that's what Pam uses. So non-discrimination, again, because we need to make sure we make that very clear. What the termination procedures are, again, everything has to be in writing and every party has to sign off. These are your addendums that you're attaching, so they become a legal part of this contract when you're attaching them. So whether it's a contingency on the sale or closing of the buyer's property, if they say, I can't buy this until my property closes, there's a form for that. Possession by the seller after closing, if the seller is going to stay living, the buyer's like, I I want to buy this property, but the seller's like, I can't be out until a date, and they make an agreement in writing that the seller can stay. That's addendum B. New construction, repairs addendums, personal property. So you will always have personal property, because remember, that's like the appliances and things like that. Just don't include things that don't need to be in there. If somebody wants to buy some farm equipment, just do that as a separate receipt. Lenders really hate when we, and not that we don't, but they don't like it when we throw all kinds of things in, because that throws off the price of the house. That's saying that it's only worth it if you included a tractor, which that's not the lender's responsibility to lend on the tractor. So make a separate receipt for those if you can. Limited purpose entry, possession by the buyer prior to closing. Sometimes that happens, not often. Contract for deed, short sale contingencies, secondary contracts. I've never used one of those. The residential real property disclosure, you will have that. Remember, like I said, pull that, have your people sign that before you even go to look at the house. Lead-based paint, if the house was built before 1978. Radon disclosure, you will have. Additional addendums. This is going to be your square footage disclosure. If the listing agent did not include one from their office, we have it available in .loop and DocuSign for our office. Doesn't matter which office writes it. Even if the house is listed by Remax and they have it in the disclosure, so the seller already signed it, now your buyer signs it, attach that. Doesn't matter which office wrote it. Special agreements. You're really not going to use special agreements for very much. Every now and then, if there is something a little bit crazy with inspections, like you have a contingency. So your buyer says, well, I can't buy until my house sells, but we're going to go under contract. So we're going to have an effective date. Inspections are supposed to, the responses are supposed to be to the seller within 20 days. But if my house still hasn't sold yet, I don't want to have to be responsible for doing inspections just yet. You can write that in special agreements, that maybe it's going to be X number of days longer, or maybe it's going to be within 20 days of buyer's house going under contract. So you can write those special agreements in. If the seller has said we're taking the above ground pool, write that in special agreements, just so that it's in writing. It is not for improvements. If in the listing the seller has said we'll give you $1,000 to replace the carpet, don't write that in special agreements. That's not where it belongs. If you use an escalation clause, that is actually not a separate form. Escalation clauses go in special agreements. Now, agent interest, Ariel, this is where you would put here. If you have, so when you sell your house, you're the agent for your sale, you'll say that here, Ariel Lewis is a licensed real estate agent and has interest. So you're buying this house for yourself, like I did. This is where you put, yep, I'm an agent, but I'm buying it for me. So this is where you disclose that. All right, so initials, address, date, page 11, we're almost done. Do not be lazy. Do not be lazy. Fill this out completely. You will see agents who are lazy and do not fill this out completely. This is not the Keller Williams way. We fill it out all the way. Okay? It's silly not to. It's a legal document. It's supposed to be filled out all the way. If you are the listing agent and you get it done halfway, send it back to the agent. Do not accept a partial contract. So you are going to fill in for your buyer's name, and you're not going to say Bill and Susie Buyer. You're going to say Bill Buyer with Bill's address, Susie Buyer with Susie's address. This is, again, pre-populated. I don't know why it's not putting everything in, because maybe I just didn't fill it in all. Maybe I didn't fill it in all the way in the beginning steps. So, but this would be Keller Williams Marquis as the brokerage, their license number, which is on your card, the address of our office, completely. It should all be filled out completely. I'm so sorry. The phone number of the office, which again, this is not correct. Your name, your license number, your cell phone, fax if you have one, and your email address. Now on the other side, you are going to fill in the sellers. I have had some agents, some buyer's agents, and I'm the listing agent, send me a contract and say, well, I mean, I don't know if your people still live. I mean, they don't have any furniture there. I don't know where they live now. This is what you're going to do. I don't care where they live now. When you look at the tax information and you see that Bailey Walker lives at this address, this is what the taxes say. So that's what you're going to put on the contract. So you're going to put Bailey Walker, 24 Lakewood Court. Do that. Write an offer on this house. Practice. Send it to me. Do a practice offer. Let me know it's practice and not for real. So seller address, if there is a Mr. Seller, doesn't matter if you put the Mr. or the Mrs. first or second, unless they're put them in the order they're listed. The listing broker. So you need all of this information and it is easy to get. So when you are on the MLS, again, copy and paste, super easy. Don't make life harder on yourself. I am the listing agent. This is my license number. This is my cell phone number. This is my brokerage. This is their license number. This is their phone number. When you click here, you have my email address. Copy paste, right? When you click here, the office address is up here. Copy paste. So you can put all of this information is right there on the MLS to fill all this out. Don't not fill it out. I'm telling you right now. This is, again, something you do not decide this. This is for you and your buyers to discuss when you want to make the deadline for them to have to respond by. This is a crazy market. I mean, we used to put like 24, 48 hours for them to respond. And sometimes we don't do that anymore. Sometimes it's like 8 hours because you're like, I know you have 27 showings. Now they may say, we are not responding that soon because we have 27 showings. And now you're going to have to write an amendment. So again, call the agent, say, do you have other showings? We want to write an offer, but we want to give you a realistic deadline. And she's like, oh, so Mr. Seller, I've had this happen, has cancer. He is in the hospital right now. I can't guarantee that we could get, I know that they really want to sell the house. I know they're waiting on your offer. However, we don't know when he might be able to sign. Can you give us 48 hours? But I know they're taking your offer, but can you give us 48 hours? And then we do. You do not want that deadline to pass. If that deadline passes and they have not responded, it's dead. You now have to write a new offer. But if you are watching your deadline and you're like, oh, we gave them 48 hours and they still haven't responded and there's an hour left, call the agent. There's an hour until our deadline expires. Will we get a response? Do we need to write an amendment to extend it? Stay on top of that. The listing agent will sign when he or she receives it. And this is where the sellers will accept reject counter. This is where the title company will sign off that they got the earnest money. This you have to fill out. This is the title company information. So again, make sure you not only know the title company, but Google search the address, the phone number, probably not a fax, but you can call the title company if it's during business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30ish, and just say, hey, I think we're going to be closing with you on 123 Main Street. Who's the contact and for new contracts, and what's the email address? Just make that phone call, fill in all the blanks. Save and send to your clients for signatures. Now, your clients, page 11, are going to have to initial down here and they have to sign up here. Don't miss those because it's 2-part for them on page 11. All right, that is it. Any questions?
So our team uses dot loop only.
Mhm.
Do I need to or is there like a DocuSign for us if someone from say Remax uses DocuSign and they send it to us, or is it?
That's a good question. It's a pain in the neck. No. You just save it as a document on your computer and then transfer it into dot-loop.
Okay. And then when you're sending it back, you're gonna
have
it
to
again?
put the signature lines in instead of just being able to tag the signature lines. You're gonna have to add them because now it's a PDF instead of an active document, a live document.
Okay.
So yeah, it's an extra step, but no, you do not have to get the other product.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anybody on chat?
No, I don't see any on chat. I gotta tell you, you do this class so well. It's just amazing.
Thank you. I feel it is 3 hours and I'm like, oh, do you guys just hate listening to me now?
No, you know I can do all day, but I just love you're just perfect person for this class.
Thank you.
I have my 10-point question in case anybody's interested.
I am.
Are you interested in a 10-pointer?
Sure.
Okay. This is for you too, Sheila, but it's not fair because I think you know this answer.
It's probably not fair. No, I will stay out.
Okay. What is the best practice when writing any contract?
Fill in all the blanks.
Yeah, we got a winner, Bailey. Nice. Right on. Very
Thank
good.
you.
And you know what?
Awesome. Awesome.
Great. That's fantastic, you guys. Thank you so much. You guys are great participators.
Yes, that was lots of great questions.
Mm-hmm. So much so, yeah.
And it's recorded. So seriously, I know this is a lot of information. Watch it again. I watch recordings all the time instead of there was something the other day. I almost called Kate because I was like, oh, I just have this quick thing. I just need to know how to get to this. And I was like, oh, there's a recording. It's my responsibility to watch the recording first, see if I can find the answer before I call Kate. And sure enough, the answer was right there.
And don't forget to put some stuff in the chat too, so you guys might want to save the chat. Just saying.
Save the chat before we get out of here. Export that. And no, this is the 3rd time I've done this class that I've recorded it. I definitely went into more detail this time, but also Rick is recording. This is the 4th time this class is recorded. So sometimes it's, you listen to somebody else say it and something clicks differently. Every class is like that. This is the 4th time we've recorded all these classes. I think this is going to be the last time because now we've got them recorded so well. We're going to go through, we are going to watch all of them and pick the best one of each of the 4 and give those to that's the one we're going to say, okay, these were the best ones of all of them. And unless there's a new update, then we'll re-record one. But otherwise, this is the last time I think we're going to do them live since they're all recorded.
Yeah. And don't forget too that this particular class, I did a bunch of 5-minute videos for you guys too. So you can always go out there if you can't remember where something goes or whatever. You can always go out to the 5-minute videos on the YouTube channel, and you can also see how it's filled in.
Yep.
Is there a video about the DocuSign? I remember Barry did this, and he went through everything with us on this is where we can find the documents. I just wanted to go back in there so I could do that fake offer and send it in to you, but I don't have access to DocuSign anymore for some reason.
To see Kate about that, wouldn't she, Sheila?
Yeah, because that should be, you go right through your command and go into an opportunity. That's why we said, make a contact that's you, and then create you in an opportunity, and then you can get into DocuSign from there.
Okay, I didn't do that. I thought I could log in just with DocuSign. Okay.
Oh, no, just make you as a fake opportunity. Yeah. Super easy. Yeah. Yep. And
All
one day you'll be
right.
a real opportunity.
Exactly right.
All right.
Is that it?
Anybody else before we go? Thank you guys so much for being a great class. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. If you guys have any questions, just reach out to us. And
Thank
no,
you. How
those
do we
videos are
reach
in
you?
there. Those links are in Barry's Sunday email, all the links to get to the YouTube videos and all the forms and everything you need.
How
Chantal
do
said
we
thank you.
how do we reach out to you, Sheila?
Oh, my phone number is 618-409-6286. And I'm in Troy. If anybody would like to get together, I like being in person.
I need coffee.
I know, right?
Coffee. I'll put mine
Awesome.
in there for you guys too, just in case you need it for anything. There you go. My phone number's in the chat, guys.
Okay.
As well as Sheila's. So if you
All
need
right. Well, I hopefully will see you guys at family reunion virtually on Monday. Yeah, I'm so excited.
I like
And then
conferences.
we will have, I think we're still having our PC class Monday night, even though we'll be on family reunion all day Monday. I'm pretty sure we're still going to meet Monday night, as far as I know.
As far as I know, we were.
Yeah, and then we'll reconvene classes with all the listing information on Tuesday, the 23rd.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you guys. You have homework to do. Please, please, please practice on people who are not your clients before your clients are your test, right?
Yep.
Submit practice contracts so that you practice to us and we can help you before you have to do it in real life, because we're more than happy to do that. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.